01. No one can predict the unexpected coming, including the destruction of the planet, including things like crossing. Kara Zor-El, a soul through time. Planet Krypton, a civilization that can be called advanced in the universe, also has a powerful and not to be underestimated strength. As early as 100,000 years ago, the planet Krypton had begun to colonize the universe, and even the Earth and the Moon had traces of their footsteps. That's because planet Krypton has predicted that its parent star is gradually approaching the end of its life since 100,000 years ago. They actually predicted that planet Krypton would collapse. Originally, the Kryptonians were ready to migrate. But I don't know what happened later, which made the Kryptonians finally give up all the colonial planets and choose to save the planet Krypton with all their strength. For this, they even invented something called the Codex of Life. It can also be called the genetic code, because it records the genes of all people on the planet Krypton. Kryptonians no longer need to give birth to offspring in a primitive way, but are determined by the genetic code. If the planet Krypton needs soldiers, then newborns that best meet the requirements of warriors will be born. If the planet Krypton needs scientists, it can also create newborns that meet the needs of scientists. There is only one exception among them, and that is Kal-El, who is the only naturally born child on Krypton many years later. And when the planet is about to be destroyed, Kal-El has already injected the code into Karl's blood and genes. If one day Kal is willing, he can even rebirth the Kryptonians. Because of this, Kara was also given a mission by Zoe Joel, that is to do everything possible to protect this cousin. Only. I protect your sister, what the hell is going on? Kara yelled angrily. At the moment, in the outer space, two spaceships, one in front and one in the back, are advancing rapidly. The destination has been set, which is the Earth. Originally, the two spaceships were supposed to run side by side, but in the process before, Kara's spaceship was accidentally hit by a meteorite. Not only did the distance fall behind Kal, but even after the spaceship was severely damaged, Kara's head was still heavily damaged. Bruised. Kara, who just escaped from the planet Krypton, is not only 10 years old, but also because the sun on the planet Krypton is red, which limits the power of the Kryptonians, making them less extraordinary than the Earthlings when they were on the planet Krypton the power of. This caused Kara to be mortally wounded, and even the original Kara was dead. The Kara of at the moment is actually not the original Kara, but the soul of a person from the real world. In other words, Kara of at the moment is the soul of a time traveler. She hasn't figured out the situation yet, and she doesn't know what happened at all. She was going to watch a movie with her best friend a second ago, and she plans to rewatch all the Premier League movies in the next few days. Why did I come here all of a sudden? Whose prank? It's not funny at all. Well. Suddenly, Kara showed a painful expression, and put his hands on his head, but what he got was blood. The meteorite did not cause any damage to the spaceship before, but the huge amounts of vibration almost smashed Kara's head. She was only 10 years old, and she and Kal had only ordinary people's physical fitness when they just came out of their home planet. The fatal injuries that could have caused the original Kara's death before can now obviously kill the current Kara again. And Kara also noticed that there was an extra memory in her mind that didn't belong to her. That is also the memory of the original Kara, and now it is spontaneously accepted and inherited by the current Kara as the brain is shocked and injured. Kara finally knows the owner of this body and who she is now. She is Kara Zor-El, a Kryptonian refugee, the daughter of Zor. Sister. Are you kidding? Kara muttered, unable to bear the trauma on her head any longer. She threw her head back and passed out. Seeing that the blood on Kara's head is still flowing, she may face a life crisis at any time. Suddenly, the spaceships of the two children passed through a space called the Ghost Area one after the other, and came to another space in the universe. This is the solar system that Kara was very familiar with, and the fixed star here is the sun. And when the golden, brilliant, and warm light of the sun was projected onto the spaceship of the two children, through the transparent cabin glass, it shone on Kara's body. Kara began to emit golden light all over her body, and the wound on her head was almost visible to the naked eye. Self-healing was completed quickly, and even Kara unconsciously flew up slowly, showing a strange posture in the spaceship. There is a gravity simulation magnetic field in the spacecraft, and the gravity level is the same as that of Krypton, and the gravity on Krypton is many times that of the Earth. At the moment Kara floated in such an environment, and when she really came to the Earth, she might be able to fly on the spot. She even had to control her own strength, otherwise she would find herself floating in the air embarrassingly while walking. Definitely that is something for another time. At the moment Carla is still in a coma. In her sleep, she also accepts all the memories of her ex. This is a completely unconscious behavior, and Carla has no way to refuse. What's more, Carla finally knew that she was taking someone else's body, similar to the rebirth of possessing others' body in the novel, which took someone else's life, so it's hard to refuse. So in Carla's relationship, she has another pair of parents. Carla's father, Zor-El, is the younger brother of Superman's father, Jor-El, and one of the scientists and judges of Krypton. And Carla's mother is named Alara, and she is also one of the high-level judges. Including Carla, there is also an aunt named Astra, a female general whose status and strength are not weaker than General Zod, and has a good relationship with Carla. It's a pity that when the planet Krypton was about to collapse, Zod, the two generals, rebelled together with Astra, and they wanted to use tough measures to save Krypton at the last moment. As a result, the two and their respective subordinates were all arrested, and Astra was personally tried by Alara. During the period, Carla was used to attract Astra and caught her with a trap. If Astra hadn't been captured beforehand, Zod might have succeeded, right? In fact, when passing through the space of the Phantom Zone just now, there was a gaze that had been staring at Carla's spaceship. Astra, she was exiled to the spaceship prison in this space, and she could only watch in vain as her most beloved niece wandered in the space alone and helpless, fleeing as a refugee. Astra hammered the glass hard. Krypton will not perish, my beloved Carla. And you are the most perfect warrior, general, scientist, leader, and you will be the queen of the new Krypton. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 02. With the current level of technology on Krypton, after entering the solar system, the two spacecraft soon came to the outer atmosphere of the Earth. Let's not mention Carla. After all, Kal-El is also the little Superman. What the hell is the input method Ziokaru, who was sent out just after he was born? If he didn't arrive on Earth in time, he might starve to death on the way. Considering this reason, the spaceships of the two siblings, one in front of the other, came to the Earth's atmosphere in almost a day. In the original setting, Carla's spaceship would encounter an accident and stay in the Phantom Zone for decades. When she came to Earth, Superman was already 30 or 40 years old. But the previous accident turned out to be an accident. It was not a nesting doll, but a bigger accident. The original Carla was not only fatally injured, but the spaceship was not damaged. Instead, it deviated from the track and ran behind Kal-El. This also caused Carla to follow Kal-El's spaceship directly instead of staying in the Phantom Zone for decades. The two spaceships easily penetrated the Earth's atmosphere one after the other and went straight to the Earth. Today's Earth technology is not yet developed. Even if we push back 30 years from today's era, the Earth technology in the 1990s would not be able to detect the invasion of the Kryptonian spacecraft. So the two siblings, Carla and Kal-El, were not attacked or blocked, and went straight from the sky to a certain farm on the ground with a flash of fire. Their luck is really good. It is still daytime. Even if two spaceships are dragging two flames, it is not easy to find them. Moreover, this farm is also very empty, and there is only one farmer's house nearby, which made them make a lot of noise when they landed, but they did not attract the attention of others. Boom, boom. Two huge amounts of loud noises sounded like bombs one after another. The two spaceships plunged side by side into a field of corn. Since this is a farm, it is obvious that there will naturally be crops in the place they broke into. And with such a big momentum, although there is almost no one in the vicinity, the farm owners they broke into will at least find out. Not long after, a couple, a man and a woman, rushed over. They looked at the scene in front of them in shock. Two spaceships fell from the sky, easily creating two deep pits. Fortunately, the two spaceships are small personal spaceships. I didn't see that the two siblings sat separately. If it was a large spaceship, or even a battleship level, the entire farm would be destroyed. The two men and women are obviously husband and wife, and this farm is also their private property. The woman turned to look at her husband beside her. What should I do, Jonathan? Do you want to call the police? When encountering such a thing suddenly, most people would be frightened, right? At this moment, probably because the two spaceships had already reached their destination, the hatches suddenly opened together, revealing two children, one big and one small. After being shaken by such huge amounts of shock, Carla finally woke up. Subconsciously, she rubbed her head with her hand. In her consciousness, her head seemed to have been severely injured. At least she touched a hand of blood on her head before she passed out. But at the moment her wound was completely self-healing, which made Carla stunned. Was it a hallucination before? Whoa whoa. Suddenly, there was a baby crying nearby, and Carl also woke up, or he was always awake. Anyway, Carla couldn't see clearly in other spaceships, let alone hear the slightest sound. It wasn't until at the moment that Carl's cry came. Carla walked over quickly and picked up Carl from the spaceship. This kid was sent away just after birth, and he didn't even have time to recognize who his parents were, right? Carla sighed softly. Is she Carl's guardian now? That, the farmer couple, who had been neglected all this time, plucked up their courage, and was tempted by a man named Jonathan, and tried to ask, "Where are you from?" After all, Carla's soul is a time traveler. As a high school student, although her English score is not very good, she can at least speak a few words. And for some reason, Carla suddenly felt as if she had mastered English immediately. What's going on? In fact, it is the super learning ability that is causing trouble. Although Carla does not have a life code, it is the genetic code on Krypton that contains the genetic memories of all Kryptonians. However, Carla still doesn't know that although she is not the first naturally born newborn on Krypton 100,000 years later like her cousin, she has genes that are closer to perfection. Warrior, general, leader, scientist, and everything in between, she has the corresponding qualities. In fact, the performance of female Superman in comics is almost always better than that of Superman. For example, Darkseid, it's not that the female Superman has never crushed and beat up, and Darkseid almost beat up Superman. There is also Doomsday, Superman's helpless opponent, and the female Superman is a blast when she goes up. Even Superman has been beaten more than once by a female Superman. Although the appearance of the female Superman Carla was a long time after Superman, she was destined to be extraordinary from the very beginning, probably even more powerful than Superman. So Carla almost only needs to hear Jonathan say a word, and she has almost completely mastered English. After being slightly stunned, Carla blinked and said, "I'm sorry, we are people nearby, and we accidentally broke in because we were joking. Let's go now, let's go now." With that said, Carla turned around and was about to leave. But how could she successfully fool her with a lie that she knew was a lie? Carla was still vigilant, worried that she and Carl, who were obviously aliens, would be taken away for slice research, so she wanted to take Carl away first, and then try to survive. It's not that she's too stupid to tell lies. Instead, he had just landed on the Earth, and just woke up, so he made up a pretense and excuse at random. In the end, Jonathan's request came from behind, "I think you should stay." Carla turned around with Carl in her arms and stared at Jonathan. Sure enough, there was still no way to fool him. That's right, the two spaceships couldn't explain it clearly. Want to fight? Carla's genes have both the toughness of a general and the militancy of a warrior. Even as a child, the first thing that comes to mind is fighting. Carla once became a favorite of red light rings. This is not without reason. This Supergirl has always been reckless. Even if the soul in the body is replaced by another person, it still hasn't changed much. At this time, the wife next to Jonathan spoke, and tried to comfort him. "It's like this, the child in your arms must be hungry, right? It happens that we still have some milk at home. If you don't mind, I think it's better to feed him first. Have something to eat. By the way, my name is Martha and his name is Jonathan. My name is Carla, and this is my younger brother Carl." Carla introduced herself, and looked down at Carl in her arms. The little guy kept crying, his eyes were swollen from crying. Maybe he was really hungry, right? Okay then, sorry to bother you. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 03. Because she had to take care of Carl, Carla had to accept the kindness of Jonathan and Martha, and carried Carl, who was still crying, and followed them to their house. The house on the farm is nothing special, just an ordinary 3-story building built on the side of the farm near the road. Various farming tools can be seen in the yard, as well as a pickup truck that Jonathan used to pull goods, or other tools. When they came to the living room on the first floor of the house, Jonathan and his wife invited Carla and Carl to sit aside, while Martha turned around and went into the inner room, and came out with a small basin after a while. Carla sniffed, smelling a milky scent. Even Carl seemed to have smelled it, and the crying finally stopped, and he couldn't wait to struggle in Carla's arms, obviously anxious and hungry. Carla felt amused and hugged Carl tightly, worried that he would fall to the ground. After all, her body was only 10 years old, and she was still a child. "Let me do it." Martha suddenly reached out her hand when she came to Carla, trying to hug Carl. Carla hugged Carl and avoided, looking at Martha warily. Martha tried her best to show a gentle expression, and explained, "I think you should be hungry too, right? Jonathan, there is still some bread in the back, and give it to this child too. Your name is Carla, right? Bring her a bowl of milk too." Hearing his wife's order, Jonathan hurriedly got up and went to the kitchen behind. Carla swallowed subconsciously. Martha was right. In fact, she was also hungry, and more importantly, thirsty. Because she was too nervous when fleeing Krypton, there was no food or drink prepared on the spaceship, and even she was starved and thirsty along the way. So when Jonathan was holding a plate of bread slices in one hand, 2 pieces of freshly cut bacon and 2 slices of sliced bacon were placed on the side, and he came over with a basin of milk in the other hand. Martha tentatively reached out to Carla again. This time she didn't dodge again, but let Jonathan use the food in his hand to replace the younger brother in his arms. If this is seen by a giant panda, it will definitely call it an expert. Ursines will never be slaves, except for food and shelter. After Carla took the things, she couldn't wait to pick up the slice of bread, sandwich the eggs and bacon, and took a big bite in her mouth. She swallowed it before chewing a few times, and took another big mouthful of milk. She didn't realize how hungry she was until she actually ate something in her mouth. Not to mention Carl, Martha was worried about how to feed him without a bottle. Unexpectedly, Carl seemed to be instinctively reaching out to grab the basin containing the milk, opened his mouth and began to drink heavily. Martha was worried about spilling the milk, and holding him, and worried that Carl would choke and want to pat him on the back, but she only had 2 hands after all. In the end, Jonathan silently came to Martha's side, patted Carl's back lightly with his big rough hands, and showed a kind and gentle look in his eyes. The siblings who fled here met kind people and finally had enough to fill their stomachs. "You can stay here if you want," Jonathan said suddenly. Carla paused, put down the plates and basins in her hands, looked up at Jonathan, and then at Martha who was holding Carl and couldn't bear to let go, and she realized something in her heart. In fact, if she hadn't disturbed, this family would have adopted Carl, and they are Carl's adoptive parents. Carla has no resistance to this. The siblings are newcomers, and even where to stay tonight is a problem, let alone food and drink. If it's just Carla herself, it doesn't seem to work. Not only is her body only 10 years old now, it is difficult to find a job, but the key is that she doesn't even have identity information, so it is not an exaggeration to say that she is struggling. What's more, what if you encounter bad people? It's not that Carla is bragging, she has blonde hair, and her beautiful facial features have already begun to show the embryonic form of a beauty. Not only will she become a rare and peerless beauty in the future, she is also a rare beauty now. She didn't know how she was going to survive, let alone carry an oil bottle. To be honest, Carla is very moved, but can they really be trusted? As if feeling Carla's complex feelings of both heartbeat and worry, Jonathan continued to comfort him, "We will not ask about your origins, even if you are really aliens, we will not reveal it, but will help you hide it. And your previous thing," referring to the spaceship, "I will also help you hide it in the attic of the warehouse, so as not to be discovered, and take it out until you grow up and need it. How about it?" Martha hugged Carl tightly and refused to let go. She seemed to like the child tightly, and she also raised her head and said to Carla, "And you are still a child, how do you take care of such a small child?" referring to Carl. "So stay, he has a few cows on the farm, he can drink milk every day, he can thrive here. And you, we can arrange a status for you, and even let you go to school." Carla is getting more and more tempted, not only providing shelter, but also food and drink, and solve the identity problem? But Carla was also skeptical, "Aren't you afraid that we are bad people?" Jonathan and Martha looked at each other, "Such a small villain?" "So are you?" they asked Carla instead of expressing their amused thoughts. Carla shook her head, "In fact, we are refugees. Our home planet was destroyed, and everyone died. We can be regarded as the second of the few survivors. We escaped because the Earth's environment is suitable for us to live in. In fact, Carla is taking the initiative to explain the origins of herself and Karl, and at the same time telling Jonathan and Martha that they are not bad people and have no purpose. After hearing this, Martha hugged Karl even more tightly, and Jonathan also stepped forward with sympathy and compassion, and reached out to pat Carla on the shoulder. Carla shook her head, because she absorbed the original memory of this body, so she also felt a touch of sadness. To be honest, Carla raised her head and said to Jonathan and Martha, "If you are really willing to take us in, we are very grateful, because we really don't know what to do. We will repay you in the future." "What repayment are you talking about?" Martha became excited. "Jonathan and I don't have any children of our own. As long as you are willing to stay, that is the best repayment. We finally have our own children, Jonathan." Jonathan looked at Martha with a wry smile, not afraid to scare the child, but even he was a little excited. Carla feels helpless in her heart, but since she wants to be taken care of by others, she must be adopted, right? So from this day on, Carla and Karl have their respective names on Earth. Karl is now called Clark Kent. And Carla tried to keep her first name, but the surname was changed to Kent, called Carla Kent. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 04. Now that they decided to stay, the two spaceships should also be packed up. In fact, Carla didn't plan to ask for it before. If she wanted to take Karl, should be called Clark now, away, she would definitely not be able to fly around with the spaceship without being shot down. Although the level of science and technology on the Earth is far too low today, it is impossible for her to stay in the spaceship without eating or drinking for the rest of her life. Once she is locked by someone, she will be in great danger. So being adopted by the Kent couple is the best result. Carla was also relieved that someone could take care of Clark, who was still a baby, and she didn't have to worry about it. Really, even in her previous life, she was only a high school student, she didn't have any children of her own, and they were siblings, and she wasn't Clark's mother. While packing up the spaceship, Carla also found some small things from her own spaceship, including a special object in Clark's spaceship. Those are two stone-like, pure black small things, not square, but somewhat triangular, finger-sized long sticks. Because Carla absorbed all the original memories of this body, she knew that it was the controller used to open many organs on Krypton, and there was an S logo on it. That is not the letter S commonly recognized on Earth, but the logo of the Al family on Krypton, and it also symbolizes hope. Both Carla and Clark have such a mechanism, which is equivalent to inheriting the authority of their respective fathers and families. Not only can they start their spaceships, but they can also control and activate other Kryptonian technologies when they encounter them. Krypton began to explore and colonize the entire universe as early as 100,000 years ago, but I don't know why it chose to give up later. Perhaps it was the constraints imposed by the code of life that prevented them from abandoning their home planet, and in the end they had no choice but to abandon their plan to immigrate to the whole population. Otherwise, there is no such thing as the Apocalypse Star and the new Protoss in the universe, and there is no such thing as the so-called Seven Lantern Corps. The Kryptonian army can destroy everything. One Superman is powerful enough, think about tens of thousands, or even tens of millions of Superman pictures. After putting away the little thing, Carla also found a set of clothes in her spaceship. It was dark blue tights on the upper body, a red skirt on the lower body, and a pair of red boots with an S logo printed on the chest, a bright red cape on the back, and an S on the back of the cape. In addition to the different lower body, isn't it the most classic dress of Superman? Superman's is pants, and Carla's is a skirt. Fortunately, it is a skirt, otherwise Carla would not want to wear underwear outside. Carla scratches her cheek, female Superman? In the past, she didn't like to watch that kind of literary and emotional dramas, but liked martial arts movies and science fiction movies, especially Premier League movies. Didn't you think that she would have the chance to become a superhero one day? That was really looking forward to it. Only Carla has her own battle suit, Clark doesn't have his because he's too young. So sorry brother. Carla happily packed up this battle suit, and it was built with Kryptonian technology. The original material of the clothes has the most basic indestructible and invulnerable ability. If it is combined with Superman-level defense power, it will not reach to a certain extent, Don't even think about hurting Karla. Even the clothes have good lighting, even wearing clothes can perfectly absorb the golden rays of the sun. We all know that Superman's power comes from the light of the sun. In addition to the red sun, the golden sun can greatly enhance the power of Kryptonians. This is very important. After Karla packed everything that needed to be packed, Jonathan felt a little headache looking at the two large spaceships. Because the spaceship needs to be hidden, we can't ask for help, but how can we lift it to the attic of the warehouse and hide it? Let me do it. Karla came to the side of the spaceship suddenly, and she raised her hands to grab the edge of the spaceship and exerted a strong force. Whoosh! Karla suddenly jumped up with the spaceship, easily jumping up to a height of more than 10 meters. Karla herself was stunned. She just felt that the spaceship was not too heavy, at least she could lift it up. But Karla didn't expect to have such great strength, or is it because the Earth's gravity and gravity are too light? Karla lowered her head. She did not fall down quickly, but more slowly drifted down like a light feather. Karla finally realized that for her, the gravity of the Earth seemed too light, and it was completely incomparable with the gravity she felt in the spaceship before. This allows her to easily get rid of gravity, and maybe even flying is not a problem. Jonathan and Martha looked at each other, and saw the shock of the other party. Although I know that these two children have extraordinary origins, it is said that they are aliens who escaped from the destruction of a certain planet, but Karla is only 10 years old. Does she have such powerful strength? God knows how terrible the people on that planet are. If they become hostile to the Earth, the consequences will be unimaginable. Fortunately, they have already exterminated their race. What? Suddenly, Karla, who was about to land, let out a cry of pain, let go of the spaceship, and fell to the ground with both feet. What's the matter? Jonathan and Martha, who was holding Clark, hurried up to greet them. They liked these two children who suddenly fell from the sky. If they didn't consider their identities as aliens, the Kent couple would think it was a gift from God. Up. So they were nervous. What happened to Karla? Karla covered her ears with her hands, shook her head vigorously, and shouted, "It's so noisy." Quarrel? It turned out that a lot of noises suddenly appeared in Karla's ears. Her super ability began to awakening. First of all, it was the enhancement of the senses, and now it is just hearing. With Karla as the center, any point within a 100-meter radius of at the moment she can hear every wind and grass clearly. She can even hear the crawling of underground mice, the sound of flying insects in the crop plants, and even the movement of a few ants. Such a sudden noisy sound is like someone holding a gong and drum to hold a concert in your ears, or it is a terrible kind. Karla was at a loss for a while, and when she raised her head to look at Jonathan and the others, subconsciously, the prototype of supervision began to appear in her eyes. First, we see through the bodies of adoptive parents, and we can see their hearts, bones, and even the flow of blood all over them. What's more, the effect of a microscope has even appeared, and even the smallest details can be seen clearly, such as fingerprints and cell composition. In the end, Karla only felt her eyes heat up, and she quickly turned her head to look in another direction. In the next second, 2 blue laser beams burst out from Karla's eyes. That's one of Superman's most famous abilities, the heat vision ray. After Karla came to Earth, she finally started awakening. 05. Many people find it hard to imagine, but in fact, it is scary and uncomfortable when the senses are infinitely magnified. It was also because Karla hadn't adapted yet, and she couldn't control it freely at first, so she couldn't control it, and would receive any sound within a radius of 100 meters in her ears. It also caused her so much pain that she could even hear the fighting between the bugs. A few ants were tearing at a caterpillar, a mouse was eating crops, and another mouse seemed to have caught a butterfly and was feasting. Ordinary people seem to be fine, but because Karla can hear it too clearly, she finds it scary. There is also vision. Karla can see through or microscopic things unconsciously. Fortunately, she realized that the heat vision rays can be controlled, otherwise she would be a laser gun that could go berserk at any time. Because Karla knew what was going on, she didn't panic, but she still needed to figure out how to control her ability. But she can't be like this all the time, can she? Hey, Karla, Jonathan and Martha didn't leave. They were also taken aback by Karla's heat vision rays, and there was still a smoking pit not far away that had been charred. But they still bravely came behind Karla, who was crouching on the ground. Jonathan squatted down and patted Karla's back lightly. He didn't ask her what's wrong, but calmed Karla's emotions, and said, "Although I don't know what's wrong with you, I think you should focus on what's on your mind. Things to see, and sounds to actually hear. Try to focus your mind. Don't underestimate the Kent couple. Although they seem to be ordinary farmers, they have always helped Superman a lot. Carla raised her head, looked at Jonathan's encouraging expression, and agreed, I'll try. She shouted, because the voice in her ears was too loud, so she unconsciously increased the volume. Jonathan picked his ears. It was a deafening experience at such a close distance. According to Jonathan, Carla closed her eyes and slowly calmed down her mood and emotions. Not to mention, although Jonathan originally didn't have a super ability, his method unexpectedly worked. Slowly, Carla turned off her super hearing, from the first 100 meters to tens of meters, and finally only her surroundings, so that she could decide whether to listen to the surrounding sounds. Then Carla opened her eyes and found that she could control her supervision very well, and no longer uncontrollably see through the physical condition of her adoptive parents, and she no longer saw skeletons when she opened her eyes, which was terrible. Carla took a deep breath, and fell back relaxed, only to fall into a tender embrace, and Martha caught her. Jonathan stood up, seeing that Carla was no longer so uncomfortable, and smiled gratifiedly. Because of Carla's sudden awakening, the two spaceships were not sent to the warehouse in the end. The whole morning passed, and Martha told them to wait until after lunch. And Clark was about to cry again. It seemed that he was hungry again. After all, it is a baby's body. One is that it cannot eat too much, and the other is that it is easy to get hungry. The lunch at noon was not very rich, and Martha just made some soup from the farm. To Carla's surprise, there was rice on the table. In fact, there are rice paddies planted in a certain country, but they are not used as a staple food, but eaten as a dish or soup, just like other vegetables. On the contrary, Carla eats very well. I'll drive to a nearby town in the afternoon to buy some ingredients and come back, and I'll cook you a table of delicious food in the evening. Martha felt relieved and happy to see Carla eating sweet and delicious food, and offered to prepare a table of sumptuous food. Dinner party. It seems that the Kents are used to living a simple life on weekdays, and there are not too many hearty ingredients prepared at home. At the same time, dinner is more important than lunch, let alone breakfast, in almost all regions. Generally, one bite for breakfast, a little more for lunch, and dinner is the most hearty and best. Carla said that she doesn't mind, as an adopted daughter who escaped, don't ask so much. But Martha pointed to Carla's clothes, I also want to prepare some clothes for you. Carla was still wearing her previous clothes, which were too conspicuous in a dress that obviously didn't belong to the Earth style. Only then did Carla agree, feeling warm in her heart, feeling that she had made the right decision, and she was so lucky to meet such a nice family. In fact, in Superman's comics, there is a parallel world where Superman landed in the metropolis instead of this farm. As a result, he was locked up since he was a child, and because he had no chance to bask in the sun since he was a child, he ended up emaciated and without a little bit super ability ended badly. Fortunately, the siblings did not have such a plot. After lunch, Carla volunteered to come to her spaceship again. She had tried it before, and she seemed to have a great super strength. She could even jump tens of meters high with one jump. Carla wonders if she can try to master flight's ability. This time, she didn't burst out with too much force in one breath, but gently lifted the spaceship up bit by bit. Jonathan and Martha couldn't help being amazed when they saw this picture again. The spaceship was at least heavier than a car, but it seemed to be very easy in Carla's hands. How strong does she have to be? According to Jonathan's instructions, Carla lifted the spaceship and followed her adoptive father to the side of the house where she lived. There was a spacious warehouse where used tools, fertilizers, and even harvested crops could be stored. Jonathan arranged the storage of the spaceship upstairs, and there is also a lot of space on the second floor. After Carla moved the two spaceships up and put them in the corner, they covered them with a rainproof cloth. Unless they were opened specially, it would be difficult to find them. Up. After finishing all this, Martha found an old clothes for Carla to replace the original Kryptonian clothes. It was an old dress, and it was actually well maintained, but the style was too outdated. Martha tied Carla's long hair with a hair tie, leaving a long ponytail to keep the wind from blowing everywhere. Carla didn't resist, she blinked her big blue eyes, and said after she finished, actually, you don't have to buy me new clothes. She didn't want to owe too much, and she wasn't the kind of person who likes to take advantage of small things. But the more she was like this, the more the Kents liked it. We have no children. You are God's gift and gift to us. From today onwards, this is your home. Although we are not your real parents, we will fulfill our obligations as foster parents, so don't be polite to us. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 06. In fact, there is another thing that really impresses Carla. In addition to adding some clothes that are more in line with the surrounding style, she also needs to add various daily necessities, including tableware. Besides that, the main one is Karl, aka Little Clark. Not to mention the baby bottle, and you can't just give him milk, and there are all kinds of necessities, including diapers and so on. There are also beds that 2 children need, quilts. The 2 children of the Kent couple suddenly ushered in 2 children, which not only added more vitality and excitement to the family, but also required a lot of changes in a short period of time. Even the issue of their identity information must be resolved, otherwise not only will they not be able to go to school, but they will be taken away and considered as smugglers. Fortunately, there are some peculiarities in this era, so after heading to a nearby town, the first thing they did was to complete the identity registration for Carla and Kent. Carla and Clark are said to have been adopted by relatives. Carla is so big, it is impossible to say that she was born suddenly, even Clark appeared too suddenly, no one heard that Martha was pregnant. So they joined the Kent family as adopted daughters and adopted sons. Next came the shopping session, and there was nothing to say. Carla had a few more clothes and skirts, and the trunk of the pickup truck was full of things, and there was a crib on it for Clark. Especially for dinner, Martha also prepared a turkey. Even if it's not Thanksgiving, they still think that 2 children are a gift from God, so they make turkey to eat at night. In short, Carla and Clark successfully integrated into this small family on the first day they came to Earth, which is a very smooth start. Carla also heaved a sigh of relief. Finally she doesn't have to run around alone in this strange world, otherwise she doesn't know what she should do. Because it was too sudden that day, there was no time to prepare the room for Carla and Clark. After dinner, Jonathan moved to live on the sofa in the living room downstairs. Upstairs in their room, Martha took Clark and Carla to the queen bed. After so many twists and turns, Carla soon fell asleep, and Clark was beside her, and hearing Clark's sleeping sound made her feel more at ease. After a night's rest, Carla wakes up the next day full of energy, but she obviously hasn't adapted to the current life, which needs more time. Jonathan and Martha were not in a hurry to let Carla accept them immediately, but hoped to let her take their time, and let Carla accept them with sincere feelings subtly. After all, Carla doesn't have her own feelings and memories like Clark. Jonathan then took care of the farm and used his spare time to help Carla decorate her room, and put Clark's crib in her room without Carla's request. This also made Carla more satisfied with the attitude of her adoptive parents. Although it is obviously a better choice for Martha to take care of Clark, at least for a short period of time, she definitely wants to protect this younger brother herself. At the same time, in order to repay her adoptive parents, Carla will also take the initiative to change into farming clothes to help. Anyway, with her current awakening power, she won't be tired from doing some work. Instead, under Jonathan's guidance, she becomes more efficient and faster than him. Jonathan bluntly said that maybe Carla is very suitable to inherit their family business. The farm was sort of an heirloom, which meant that Jonathan was treating Carla and Clark as his own true children. Carla definitely didn't want to stay in the country and take care of this farm for the rest of her life, and if Clark wanted to, let him do it. In this way, Carla and Clark settled down in Kent's house. Under the careful care of Jonathan and Martha, Clark also began to thrive, and Carla also saved a lot of trouble. Later, Jonathan waited for Carla to get used to the current life before paying to send her to a school in a nearby town. Jonathan is really a powerful person. He is not in a hurry, but waits until Carla really believes in them and will rest assured that Clark will be taken care of by them before sending Carla to school. With such comprehensive care, even Carla finally fit in. I still remember one day when she subconsciously called her adoptive parents Dad and Mum. The old couple embraced each other excitedly, and were moved to tears. Is it that exaggerated? Time flies by. In a blink of an eye, it has been 5 years since Carla came to Earth and this home, during which time she has completely mastered her own power and those super abilities, and even sneaked out at night to master flight's abilities. In fact, Carla should have been able to fly a long time ago. Since she came to the Earth, she felt that the Earth's gravity and gravity are much lighter, and she can easily get rid of the gravity. But at first Carla could only jump very high, and could not really do flight. It took a lot of effort to finally master the method of flight. Carla didn't hide it, and had happily shared these with her adoptive parents. However, her adoptive father, Jonathan, warned Carla very solemnly, telling her not to show it in front of outsiders, fearing that the power she displayed far beyond ordinary people would cause panic among others, and even more worried that she would be ostracized. Disgust. Carla also understood Jonathan's worry, and readily agreed that she would only go out when no one was around, so as not to cause trouble. So Carla has always behaved well in the past few years. Apart from being more beautiful and having better academic performance, she goes to and from school on time every day, helps the family take care of the farm when she returns home, and is sometimes a friend at school. Tell her to go out to play before going out. The proper image of a good girl also makes Carla very popular in school. And Clark has grown up too. He is 5 years old now, 10 years behind Carla, and finally he is no longer a baby who needs to be held and cared for. And the 5-year-old is currently attending a kindergarten or preschool. He goes out with his sister Carla every morning, and at night because he leaves school earlier, Martha or Jonathan picks him up. It's just that Clark has been having some troubles recently, and he doesn't know what's wrong with him. Sometimes he hears some voices inexplicably, like whispers from people far away, or light knocks on the table. Including his eyes are also problematic. Sometimes what he sees is not an ordinary person, but sees a skeleton through the flesh and blood, and can even intuitively observe the other person's heart and so on. Little Clark was going through what Carla had been. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 07. Time flies, Carla is 15 years old, and now she is dressed in fashion, originally beautiful, blonde, long hair that now reaches her waist. In addition, his academic performance is also good, and he doesn't usually go out to fool around. He goes home after school, and mostly stays at home to help out on holidays, and he doesn't feel ashamed at all. Before, other children laughed at her as a peasant girl. But so what? Carla thought that my sister would tell you that my sister is a female Superman? Who do you look down on? It is also because of this self-confidence that she is more radiant and attracts attention. She has always been a famous figure in school. If there is a list of the most popular girls, she will definitely be the first. There are also many boys who want to pursue Carla, but they are all rejected directly by Carla, not even accepting any invitation from bad boys, and the girls who can hang out with her are also good girls. Over the past few years, Carla has always put Jonathan and Martha at ease, and sometimes they take the initiative to let Carla go out with friends, watch movies, drink coffee, and so on. And I also bought a phone for Carla in advance. In the past 2 years, technology has begun to develop. She uses a flip phone, which is very beautiful. However, Carla's mobile phone is not only in contact with her adoptive parents, but also with school teachers or those good girls. Other than that, it is difficult for others to get her phone number, and it hardly rings very often. The only thing that happened in class today was an accident. When the teacher was in class, Carla's cell phone rang suddenly. Who? The teacher got angry all of a sudden, but when he turned around and saw Carla taking out the phone and answering it, he calmed down and said, "Go outside to answer it." Carla nodded, stood up and walked outside. The other students behind them looked at each other in blank dismay. Is the teacher too eccentric? If our mobile phone rings, we will definitely be punished, let alone answer the phone. Humph, isn't it just a little more beautiful, what's the matter? There was a sour murmur in the classroom. As a result, the teacher in front was also unambiguous, reached out to knock on the desk, and scolded angrily, "Stop talking nonsense, people don't make trouble once a year, how about you? You have to make trouble almost every day in every class, blame me." The ones complaining behind those backs are all girls, some are gorgeous, some are wearing heavy makeup, anyway, they look like a bad girl. The reason why I can't stand it is because Carla's reputation has always been good, and she is beautiful, jealous. In the corridor outside the door, Carla didn't bother to listen to those trivial matters. Although she always had the image of a good girl, Carla dared not neglect this only thing. Even in class, she had to turn on her mobile phone and turn on the ringtone. She is not afraid that someone will play a prank on her, but she is afraid that there will be a sudden accident at home, but she will not receive the news in time. Like now. Mom. Carla found out that the phone number was from her adoptive mother, Martha, and she couldn't help feeling a little bit in her heart. Her adoptive parents hardly called her when she was in class, and even after school, because she would go home as soon as possible. Nothing to worry about. What happened? What's wrong? Carla's expression suddenly became serious, and she asked her adoptive mother what's wrong. I heard Martha's worried voice from the opposite side. I just received a call from Clark's teacher, saying that something strange happened to him, and he locked himself in the storage room and no one can take him away. Come out. Your father and I are rushing over there. If you have time, come with us. After all, you know, your siblings are a little, that. It means that they have powers different from ordinary people. Instead, Carla breathed a sigh of relief. It would be fine if that was the case, as long as nothing happened at home. I see, I'll be right here, Carla said, before hanging up the phone and returning to the classroom. Teacher, I have something to go back early today, sorry, Carla said hello to the teacher, and then quickly returned to her work, quickly packed her things into a small shoulder bag and left. Carla doesn't care about other people's feelings, because in her heart, only family is the most important thing, and she doesn't even care about her studies. What's more, Carla's past life soul was already a high school student after all, and it would be more effective to relearn, only the history here is a bit difficult. Later, Carla also found that her memory and mind are getting better and better. It can be said that she can remember things by rote. In fact, if she was not worried about being too exaggerated, she would have been admitted to university without any problem. It's just that she is only 15 years old after all, and the cost of going to college is not low, so she wants to wait, such as helping the family earn some money, and wait until she is 18 years old. Therefore, Carla's academic performance has always been among the best. Even if she can't get full marks in every exam, she is almost always in the top 5. In the face of such a good student with excellent grades, it is acceptable to suddenly be rude once. So the teacher didn't say anything. As a result, this definitely attracted a lot of dissatisfaction and complaints. Boom! The huge amounts of voice suddenly startled the whole classroom. Everyone looked at the door stupidly. It was Carla who kicked the door frame almost to pieces. Turning her head to the side, Carla stared at her eyes. The beauty who usually only thinks of beauty is now angry, and suddenly gives people a terrible deterrent. A group of B, are you looking for death? Carla glared at those guys who always looked at her displeased. In the past, she didn't bother to talk to them, but today she was in an irritable mood, and she was still muttering. It immediately made Carla anxious. Carla put his hand on a table beside him, and he might smash it at any moment. With her strength, if she exploded against those ordinary classmates, it would be death or injury. Jingle bell. Carla paused for a while when the phone rang, and took out the phone from her trousers pocket. This time it was no longer the adoptive mother, but the adoptive father. What's the matter, Dad? Carla answered the phone. Jonathan's helpless voice came from the opposite side. Martha was too anxious just now, and I still don't know the specific situation at Clark's place. If you, Carla, are still in class, don't come here. Carla glared at those people fiercely, turned her head and continued to leave, and said as she walked, it's okay, I have already greeted the teacher, let alone with my current grades and almost full attendance, I skip class occasionally, no problem. The teacher in the classroom said that she didn't hear it, but she was right. The students in the classroom obviously haven't recovered from Carla's sudden outburst, and they were stunned for a long time before continuing the class under the teacher's reminder. On the other side, by the time Carla met up with her adoptive parents and came to Clark's school together, the kid had locked himself up for over an hour. Carla leaned closer to the door, glanced at the shape-shifting handle that seemed to be roasted, but a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, because she recognized it. This is what it looks like after being burned and heated by heat vision rays. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 08. When Carla came to Clark's school with her adoptive parents, she learned what happened through Clark's teacher. It turned out that Clark suddenly ran away during class and shut himself in the storage room in the corridor. Come out. At least in the eyes of others, that's how Clark ran away for no reason. The teacher tried to get Clark out, but when she grabbed the doorknob, it suddenly became hot for some reason. This also caused the surrounding students to murmur. Some said that Clark was a freak, and that he was weird, and few people even played with him, etc. Even the Kents tried their best not to let Clark play with other children. It wasn't because they were too strict. In fact, it was Carla's fault. After seeing Carla's strength, how dare they let Carla's younger brother Clark play with other children? What if one day he bursts out with such strength and beats other children to death? This is also a means of protecting Clark, but blocking is worse than sparse. Carla glanced at the traces on the doorknob, and guessed that Clark should have awakened the heat vision ray, and maybe found an opportunity to teach him how to control his own power. Thinking about it, while adoptive father Jonathan was going to apologize to the principal, and adoptive mother Martha was also talking to Clark's teacher, Carla came to the door, knocked on the door and said, "Clark, it's me, sister, Carla." Hearing Carla's voice, Clark inside the door raised his head, his eyes completed the perspective unconsciously, and he saw his sister as expected. Carla felt amused, and opened the perspective to see Clark sitting there. The little guy was covering his ears tightly. It should be the same as she was at the beginning, and suddenly awakening super hearing and felt uncomfortable and at a loss. Carla blinked, knowing that Clark could see her small movements, squatting down to the same height as Clark's current position, and lowering her voice, said, "Clark, do you hear a lot of noise? It's messy and noisy." Clark subconsciously asked, "How do you know?" Carla shrugged, glanced at the children around her, and continued to speak in a low voice, "Because I'm your older sister, so I can hear it too. But it doesn't matter, Clark, as long as you focus on the voice you want to hear on, you can ignore the noise. Including your eyes, Clark, learn to master it." Clark fell silent, probably doing it the way Carla taught him. After a while, the door of the utility room was opened by Clark. The little guy was probably frightened, with tears still on his face. Carla stretched out her hand to hug Clark with some distress. The siblings are already related by blood, and they have lived together for so many years. Carla has long regarded him as her own brother. "Are you saying you can do that too?" Clark was still struggling with his previous experience. He just completely awakened supervision's clairvoyance, microscopic vision, thermal vision rays, and super hearing today, and he is at a loss. Carla smiled and nodded, then raised her index finger and made a SHH gesture. "I'll talk about it when I get home, it's a secret." Clark was obedient and didn't ask any more questions. He squeezed Carla's hand tightly, and the two siblings stood there looking at their adoptive mother, Martha, to deal with the teacher's question. The teacher was still dutiful, and kept talking to Clark until the family arrived, and even burned his hand because of it. Carla thought for a while, walked over and took the teacher's hand, lowered her head, and under the teacher's puzzled gaze, exhaled a cold breath, which relieved her a little pain from the burn. It was super breathing, one of the new abilities that Carla mastered at some point, which allowed her to exhale the breath of a strong wind, or into an icy cold air, which could even put out a fire. Carla tried it, and the lowest temperature can easily freeze a lake. This is also because she is not very old now, and she will only become stronger and stronger in the future. "Teacher, it won't hurt if you blow it on." Carla smiled playfully at the teacher. The teacher is a middle-aged woman who taught Carla a few years ago, so she is an old acquaintance. The teacher put out his hand and pushed Carla's head in a funny way. She is not a child anymore. She usually fools other children like this. She didn't expect to be fooled by her former student today. "But I don't know if it's an illusion, but the palms really don't hurt anymore." After a while, Jonathan also came back after speaking with the principal, and glanced at Clark with a worried look in his eyes. The family spoke a few more words with the teacher, because Clark's situation today is quite special, so they are going home together. When returning to the car, Jonathan asked Carla a question worriedly. "She was also in class before, is there any problem?" "I told you, it's okay to skip class once in a while, and Mom and Dad, don't you always think I'm too homey? It's not a good thing to stay at home all the time." Carla and Clark sat in the back row, looking uncomfortable in the face of their adoptive father's concern. "I care very much." Martha turned her head and gave her daughter a blank look, dumbfounded. "So don't you want to go home again now?" They hoped that Carla could hide out and play with friends. When she was a young girl, she always ended up helping their old man and old woman in the farmland, which made them feel distressed. Carla was about to speak with a smile. Clark finally couldn't bear it any longer. He took Carla's hand and asked, "Sister, what happened to me? Do Mom and Dad also know about this kind of thing?" The whole family was silent for a while. Carla didn't want to hide it, but Clark was still too young, and she was worried that it would be difficult to accept telling him the truth suddenly, so she sighed, no, because something happened to Clark and his sister when they were young, so only Clark and his sister are special. Jonathan and Martha looked at each other, secretly relieved in their hearts. In fact, they didn't want to tell Clark the truth now. They were not Clark and Carla's biological parents, but their adoptive parents. On the way back, Carla continued to explain to Clark the control of super hearing and supervision, but never mentioned any news about Krypton, but told him that their power comes from the sun, and Clark can to bask in the sun. She often helps out at home instead of going out to play with other people, because she can bask more in the sun at the same time, which is beneficial. The most important thing is, Clark, you will gradually improve your own strength in the future, and your speed will also increase at that time, but it is best not to expose these things easily, so you have to learn how to master them. Actually, I'm learning some fighting techniques, maybe I have the opportunity to teach you. Jonathan, who never interrupted the communication between the siblings, asked strangely, fighting technique. Carla stuck out her tongue and said she had slipped up. Carla knew that whether it was her or Clark, they would never remain ordinary forever. Sooner or later they would become superheroes, and by then they might encounter all kinds of enemies. So Carla found an opportunity, either from the internet or from TV programs, and saw some specious fighting techniques, definitely just playing around now. But with Superman's strength and Superman's speed, how can ordinary boxing skills be so simple? Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 09. At least temporarily calmed Clark down, but Carla didn't just fool Clark. Apart from not saying anything about Krypton, she spent a few days with him almost every day after school, and finally allowed Clark to temporarily control his new life. The awakening ability was gone. At the same time, Carla also warned him in advance that as Clark grew up, his strength would become more and more superhuman. When Clark grows up to be 10 years old, he may be as strong as Carla when he first came to Earth, that is to say, by then Clark can even lift a car. So Carla also asked him to keep an eye on his changes. Fortunately, Carla was by Clark's side, so that he was not too flustered and overwhelmed during the excessive growth period. With this sister's company and guidance, Clark can adapt to his own power more easily. It's just that Clark didn't know that every time he fell asleep, his parents and sister were all worried about him. According to his adoptive father, Jonathan, he hoped that Clark would continue to stay away from other children, fearing that he could not control his strength and hurt others. But Martha and Carla disagree. You can't keep him so withdrawn, Martha said, concerned about Clark's current state. Carla also said, you treat me and Clark very differently. She even wondered if Jonathan was charged by his daughter. Jonathan naturally had his own reasons. Carla, you are different, you are older than Clark, you are his sister. And you remembered everything when you came to our house, so you can control your power, but Clark is not yet. In short, let's talk about it after he grows up. And your origin and life experience, and when he can accept it and understand it better, then tell him. At least Carla agrees with Jonathan's second sentence. As for Jonathan's so-called telling Clark not to get in touch with others, Carla felt that it was a bit of a fuss. Definitely Jonathan also didn't want the existence of Clark and Carla to be exposed. He worried that once the Superman power of the siblings was exposed, they would not even have peace. Although Jonathan is just a farmer, he knows that human beings are afraid of unknown power. And this fear will bring confusion, exclusion, and persecution. He is only using his own method to protect his child, and he is only fulfilling the responsibility that a father should do. Carla also knew that he hoped that the two siblings could grow up smoothly without any worries. In the final analysis, it was for their two siblings, so he had no choice but to agree. In this way, the Kent family returned to peace. Carla then went back to class as usual. It's just that Carla still left some influence that day. For example, she not only answered the phone during class, but also suddenly ran away and skipped class. The principal called her directly to the office. In the office, the principal was a fat old man wearing a bloated suit, looking at Carla who was sitting on the sofa beside him waiting to be reprimanded after he came in. Today Carla wears a ponytail and a headband at the back of her head, but has two long sideburns on either side of her forehead. She was wearing jeans in line with the style of this era, a small shirt with a denim jacket, and a pair of white canvas shoes. She looked fashionable, youthful, and conservative. "Mr. Principal? If it's okay, I'll go back." Carla raised her eyebrows. "This principal is a bit too much. It only takes a few glances, and you will be charged for another look." The principal didn't feel embarrassed, but rather heartbroken. "Carla Kent, I always thought you were different from those bad boys in school, and even planned to recommend you to a good university for further study after you graduated. But now you are going to degenerate yourself yet." Carla felt speechless. "Is there a reason for me? Do I have to sit in the classroom obediently when my family is in trouble?" "It was because my younger brother Clark was in trouble that day, so I was in a hurry to go out, and I already said hello to the teacher." "So that's how it is." The headmaster finally realized the reason, and asked, "So is it all right now?" "It's about your brother." Carla agreed. "It's all right now, thank you for your concern. If I'm all right, I'll go out. Don't worry, I'm too lazy to go out with a bunch of brats, I'd rather read a few more interesting books." Okay, then you should pay attention to yourself." "Wait, are you just too lazy to go out and fool around with little brats? You can't go out to fool around, right?" But when the principal realized it, Carla had already gone out. Carla bid farewell to the principal, pushed the office and went outside. Outside the door, two chicks, one on the left and one on the right, one in black and one in white, suddenly came up. "How's it going? Did you get scolded?" a white girl asked. But the black chick reprimanded angrily, "Hey, Jennifer, are you gloating? They are two of Carla's few friends, and they are about the same age, but they are not in the same class, so they received the news a little behind. The white girl is called Jennifer. She has a beautiful face, blue eyes, a tall figure, and is also a popular figure in the school. She and Carla have known each other since elementary school, and their relationship was normal back then, and there were even some festivals and frictions. But then Jennifer was bullied by a male student once, and when she was about to lose money, she was rescued by Carla, so they became good friends. The black girl is called Danny, and because of the small size of the town, she and Carla and Jennifer went to the same elementary school, but they were not in the same class at first. Later, because a few bad boys wanted to bully Danny, they were saved by Carla passing by, and they became friends. Initially, Danny and Jennifer wanted Carla's shelter more, as long as they stayed by her side, they were safe. But later, the three of them had similar personalities and average ages, so they got closer and became good friends. "It's okay." Faced with the concern of the two friends, Carla briefly explained what happened just now. "The principal knew that I left because of my younger brother Clark, so it was easy to talk." That's it. The two women were not too surprised. They already knew what happened in the past 2 days, and they guessed that this was the result. "By the way, Carla, let's go around the town after school in the afternoon. It's been a long time since we played together, watch a movie, and find a place to have a drink or something," Jennifer suddenly proposed with great interest. Danny's eyes lit up too. Both women looked at Carla together. Carla showed an embarrassed expression, "But how can I go home after the school bus has left? Wouldn't it be nice to let my dad send you off? I can also go home with you." Come on, Jennifer was about to pull her to act coquettishly. Danny also said, "It's true that we haven't watched a movie together for a long time. Even if I help at home, it's not so hard." Carla had no choice but to agree, okay, but it can't be too late. I have to call home. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 10. After Clark experienced that growth, it seemed that the track of life had returned to the right track in daily life. After school that afternoon, at the invitation of Jennifer and Donnie, the three girls went for a stroll in the small town together. Carla has been in this city for more than 5 years, and she is also familiar with the town. The town is small in size, but it has everything you need in every way. The three girls first went to the cinema to watch a movie, and then went to a fast food restaurant to eat something, snacks and drinks before dark, and they already thought it was very interesting. It's just that they ignored the time because they were too involved in the game, and when they came back to their senses, they realized that it was already very late. Coming out of the fast food restaurant, the three girls quickly called their families and said they would go back soon. In fact, Only Carla lives on her own farm outside the city, and Danny and Jennifer both live in the town. Because Jennifer promised to let her father drive Carla home, Danny went home first. Only Carla and Jennifer were left standing on the side of the street, waiting for Jennifer's father to drive over, chatting about something, talking about interesting things in school for a while, and talking about the movie they watched before. Without paying attention, I noticed that not far away, 3 drunk men who were obviously drunk were approaching here. "Hey, little girl, let's play with the uncle," one of the drunks suddenly grabbed Jennifer's shoulder. The girl was taken aback and screamed to escape. But the drunk man's wrist was holding her tightly, and it was not known whether Jennifer's scream was frightened or painful. Carla turned around quickly, and the more beautiful face made all 3 drunks shine. Even the drunk man let go of Jennifer, and the 3 of them surrounded Carla. Jennifer's expression was very complicated, and she didn't know whether to be grateful or annoyed, whether to thank Carla for saving her life, or to be jealous of her more beautiful face than her own. "Now is not the time to think about these things," Jennifer hurriedly shouted. "Carla, be careful." "Carla." The 3 drunks were taken aback and looked at each other, as if they had heard the name before. Although Carla was surrounded by 3 big men, she wasn't afraid at all, she just felt that the alcohol on them smelled bad, so she wrinkled her nose. "Wash it well when you get back, but I guess you won't be able to wash it in a short time," Carla said, and shot directly without any politeness. She was surrounded by people, and if she didn't make a move, she would only suffer, and she refused to suffer. Carla took a sudden step forward, first chose one of the people surrounded in front of him, raised his right foot and kicked him in the chest. But Carla didn't dare to use too much force, for fear of kicking people to death. So the man just flew a few meters away, and it seemed that he fell to the ground and did not move for a long time, but his life was not in danger. The other 2 drunks were dumbfounded by Carla's swift action. They looked at each other, and one of them stammered and said, "I seem to have heard of her name. It is said that there is a strong girl in high school who is also called a tyrant. Although she has always shown herself as a good girl, but she is extremely powerful, and she shows no mercy to all the punks, even many people in the town have suffered from her." Unexpectedly, Carla has gained such a reputation in recent years. "But..." Carla looked at the 2 with a dark face. "Who do you think is Dolly Girl?" Carla's forehead was pulsating with cross veins, but she still had to put on a graceful smile on her face, which made her look even more terrifying. Jennifer on the side covered her mouth unceremoniously and let out a burst of uncontrollable sniggering. She wasn't gloating, but just thought it was funny that Carla was deflated. And I don't know which brat or gangster she has dealt with deliberately spread that title, Dolly Girl. Thankfully they figured it out. "Run away," the 2 drunks recognized Carla, even a little sober from the wine, remembering the rumors they had heard about her, they immediately turned around and fled. But they just offended Carla, how could Carla let them escape? Jennifer, who lowered her head and covered her mouth and giggled, didn't notice that Carla's figure turned into an afterimage, grabbing the backs of the 2 drunks instantly like a ghost. Originally, the 3 drunks surrounded Carla in a triangle pattern, but Carla was the first to clean up the drunk who was directly opposite her, and the other 2 drunks were already planning to separate and escape without knowing it. But they were still grabbed by the back collars of Carla respectively, and then pressed their heads and bumped into each other in the middle, making a bang sound, and passed out on the spot. After doing this, Carla clapped her hands alternately, made a posture of hitting the dirt, and turned around to tell Jennifer not to laugh. But suddenly, Carla saw that the drunk man got up from the ground at some point, but without a word, he took out a black object from his clothes. Carla has good eyesight, and when she saw the true face of that thing clearly, her expression changed on the spot. The gun, it was a pistol. Damn it, Carla cursed inwardly, she should have scanned the 3 drunks for weapons or something. But it was too late to say anything now. The only thing that made Carla feel a little better was that the drunk man pointed the gun at herself instead of Jennifer next to her. "That's good," Carla murmured to herself, then kicked off the ground and rushed straight at the drunk man. Boom! Huge amounts of gunshots rang out on the street, and amidst a burst of flames, a bullet capable of piercing a person's body and skull came straight to Carla's face, even aiming at her eyes. It's not that the drunk man's marksmanship is accurate, but because of Carla's own relationship. In her eyes, the drunk man's speed is very slow. In order to prevent the drunk man from firing a second shot, she acted desperately. Carla's speed was very fast. If the drunk wanted to aim consciously, he would have no chance to fire the shot, and he pulled the trigger subconsciously. As a result, as soon as the bullet came out of the gun, Carla had already crossed the middle distance and came to the front, and let the bullet come to Carla's eyes. So how will Carla face the unexpected situation? The answer is, neither dodging nor dodging, she just continued to charge straight up. There was only a sound of pop, and the bullet hit Carla, but the bullet couldn't hurt Carla at all. Even if she opened her eyes, the bullet could only smash into Carla's eyes in vain. Immediately afterwards, before the drunk man fired a second shot, Carla grabbed his arm and squeezed hard. Crack! The drunk man uttered a terrible cry, and the bones in his arm were crushed by Carla into a comminuted fracture, which may never heal in this life. Immediately afterwards, Carla walked around behind the drunk again, picked up the hair of the drunk with his left hand, and made a hand knife with his right hand. The power of this knife is definitely faster than any real magic knife. She's going to kill him? Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 11. It was the drunk who fired first, otherwise Carla would just give them a little lesson and stop. Carla was also furious in her heart, at the moment she was facing her, with indestructible defensive power, but what if it was someone else? This guy is holding a gun? And actually pulled the trigger on someone else. It's just courting death. Carla held the drunk man's hair with his left hand, forcing him to raise his head. Even the pain in his arm couldn't make him ignore the pain from the top of his head. Carla raised her right hand in the shape of a hand knife. With her strength and speed, if this knife is cut down, the power will definitely not be inferior to that of a magic weapon. Carla. At this moment, Jennifer called Carla's name in a terrified tone, looked down at the drunk man, and couldn't help shivering. You don't mean to kill him, do you? Carla froze. Jennifer shook her head. Don't do that, Carla, we all know you have great power, but if you do that, there's no going back. Some people even call Carla a strong girl. In fact, many people know that her strength is different from ordinary people, but Carla has only shown her own great strength, and has not shown other super abilities. I don't know which BD started shouting first, and even gave her such a lousy title as Dolly New. Don't let her know who it is. Carla, please, Jennifer said aloud, anxiously hoping Carla would calm down. Carla looked at Jennifer, thought for a while, and asked, if I were not here today, but you met them yourself, what would happen to you? Jennifer was taken aback for a moment, subconsciously thinking of an extremely miserable scene. And as you can see, this BD is not only carrying a gun, but he also shot without any hesitation. If you were attacked instead of me, you would have been killed by him. Carla raised her foot. The pistol that fell to the ground was crushed with one foot. Carla raised her head and asked Jennifer, even if you can forgive what they did, what if today it's not me and you, but Danny? If she was hurt by them, how would you face Danny? Even if it's just a stranger who has never met, will be persecuted by them in the future because of our inaction today, what will you think when you know the news? Facing Carla's rhetorical question, Jennifer was a little at a loss. After all, they are only 15-year-old girls, and they don't have so many ideas. Besides, Carla is not only 15 years old, she should be in her 20s. She was a high school girl before crossing, and now she has lived in this world for another 5 years, at least 20 years old. Carla looked at Jennifer. Killing a bad guy may save countless good people. If Batman's willpower is firmer and he kills Joker, he won't give Joker the slightest chance to speak and do things from the very beginning. How can there be so many? No matter how many things happen, no matter how many people are hurt, they don't have to be insane. But Jennifer was puzzled. Batman? Joker? Who is that? She and Carla have been best friends for many years. If it is a movie or magazine that Carla has watched, she has no reason not to know. At least in this world, Batman hasn't made his debut yet. So Carla gave her best friend a spoiler. Anyway, Jennifer, this person cannot be kept. He has murderous intentions and will take action. This person is too dangerous. Keeping him will only leave endless troubles. Carla lowered her head while talking, and raised her left hand to make the drunk look up at her. Suddenly Carla laughed. She saw that the drunk man had stopped screaming. Unexpectedly he was still a tough guy, but this made Carla unable to keep him. I like an idiom called cutting grass and roots. Are you still wanting revenge? Hurt my relatives? My young brother? Or hurt my two best friends, Jennifer and Danny? Or their families? Carla gently touched the drunk man's eyelids with his right hand. His eyes had long since lost the confusion of drunkenness, but there were clearly identifiable hatred, resentment, madness, and killing intent in his eyes. Carla smiled, "Just take it as my debut." With that said, Carla turned around and pulled the drunk man to leave. Carla. On the street behind her, Jennifer stood there helplessly, watching Carla's back quickly disappear into the darkness of the street, knowing that there was no way to persuade her anymore. But Jennifer was very worried about what would happen to her if Carla did such a thing. Even legally speaking, she is the criminal. Until Jennifer's father drove over and found that Carla had disappeared. Jennifer could only lie that Carla's father came to pick her up, and then the father and daughter went home. On the other side, Carla didn't care anymore. She dragged the man all the way to a remote alley. The drunk seemed to know his end, so he didn't beg for mercy all the way, but just kept looking at Carla coldly, until he was thrown into several trash cans by Carla. "You dare not kill me," the drunk sneered. "So you're still delusional." Carla spread her hands. The drunk looked deeply at Carla, and warned, "I'm not underestimating you, but you have to be clear, you are still a beautiful girl in your prime. If you kill me, you will spend at least a few years in prison. It's really worth it. Do you still have family members? Are you not afraid that they will be sad?" It turned out that he was relying on this reason. If it's true from the perspective of ordinary people, Carla nodded, agreeing with the drunk man. In anyone's opinion, it is impossible for a young girl with a bright future to trade with a drunk. He was right, and if it was tracked down that Carla had killed him, he would definitely be in trouble. "But as long as people don't know that I killed you, that's fine," Carla shrugged. Her eyes slowly began to turn red, and suddenly, Carla's eyes released two terrifying lasers, instantly piercing the drunk's eyes. "I hate the look in your eyes," Carla said, putting away the heat vision ray, and the blow was enough to burn the drunk man's entire brain, and he was completely dead. With the current Earth technology, laser guns haven't been developed yet, right? Even if there is such a black technology, a farm girl like me has no chance to get it anyway, right? Well, let's say it's a guy in a black batsuit. Someone killed him, it has nothing to do with me, Carla said to herself, starting to make plans for what would happen next. As for whether Carla will be afraid of killing someone for the first time, or have any negative effects. Why? Carla was mentally prepared to do it, and when she was a child, she often heard the noise in the field outside in the middle of the night, many sounds that were enough to leave a psychological shadow on people, and enough to make people have nightmares every night. She has long been accustomed to the picture. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 12. Carla has super hearing and supervision. She heard Jennifer's conversation with her father, and also saw Jennifer's restlessness and hesitation. Jennifer wants her father's help to find Carla, and hopefully stop Carla if it's still possible. But Jennifer is worried that they will meet Carla's good thing just in time. If they run into each other while Carla is doing something, they will become witnesses against Carla. So in the end Jennifer could only leave with her father. It was not until they left that Carla came out of the alley. Looking at the direction where Jennifer's father and daughter left, Carla smiled with relief. At least she didn't make friends. If it's a superficial girlfriend, Jennifer doesn't need to be entangled. If it's a little more green tea, she can say nothing, but she will accuse Carla afterwards. In that case, Carla is too poor. But this kind of thing can happen easily. Fortunately, Carla's vision is not bad. Going back to this street, because the small town is small, and the current age has not yet reached the millennium, there are almost no people on the street after the time is late. This is not one of those big cities where the lights stay on until late at night. There were almost no pedestrians on the street, and no one passed by for such a long time. Carla went back to the two drunks whom she had knocked unconscious by their heads, and nearly broke their leg bones with one kick. Huge amounts of pain instantly awakened the two of them. Carla stood there condescendingly. At the moment, she didn't have any tenderness that belonged to a girl, but only a cold hostility. The drunks mentioned two titles for Carla before. One is the strong girl, referring to her infinite strength. Another one is called tyrant. Even Carla herself may not have noticed that at the moment, she exudes a terrifying, cruel, and terrifying aura. Speaking of which, Carla's family is even more glorious than Karl's, that is, Superman's family. In fact, Carla and Karl belong to the same family, which is definitely. But Carla's father is a scientist and a judge just like Karl, and the mothers of the siblings are almost judges, with the same position. But Carla's aunt, her mother's sister, is a general at the same level as Zid, including Carla's mother, who is not only a judge, but also a general. This led to Carla's genes being full of the best fighters, the most qualified generals and leaders, and the elements of all other positions. There is only one exception: she is not suitable for synthesis as an elder of the Supreme Council, because the Al family actually has complaints about the elders. Those parliaments will only make the problem more and more complicated, but they can't solve any problems at all, which leads to Krypton not finding any solution until it is destroyed. Far away. When Karla faces opponents who can be regarded as enemies, he has a coldness different from Superman, and can even be called cruel. She looked down at the other two drunk men, and scanned them with a perspective eye, and found that they did not have guns on their bodies. Since there is no fatal threat ability, then I will spare your life. However, you should know what to say and what not to say. Karla asked coldly, what does she look like at the moment? She is a 15-year-old girl, almost like a queen in charge of the world. Ruthless, undeniably powerful, and unabashedly hostile and threatening. The two drunk men curled up and fell to the ground. They were already dizzy, being hit, and each of them lost consciousness in one leg, and it was not known whether it was broken. The two nodded quickly, not daring to argue. But Karla sneered, "Know what? That companion of yours has already been killed by me. I believe the police will start investigating tomorrow. If you dare to confess me by then, I will make you feel miserable. Remember, a guy dressed like a bat took that guy away, not me, get it?" It seems that Karla is determined to blame Batman, and I don't know how Bruce Wayne will feel when he learns that he has been active in this small town when he debuts in the future. The two drunks had already sobered up, facing Karla's threats. They dared not go against her will at all. Karla was not afraid that they would be disobedient, so she turned around with a soft snort and was about to leave. By the way. After walking a few steps, Karla turned around and asked thoughtfully, about the title of Dolly knew, who told me? As expected, she still cared about the title Dolly knew. The two drunks looked at each other, and finally shook their heads together. It seems that they don't know either, they just heard something about Karla from somewhere. The reason is that Karla is actually not as well behaved as she appears on the surface. There is another side hidden behind her. The other side of her is irritable, powerful, and aggressive. Any bad guys and gangsters who dare to provoke her will eventually be killed by Karla. Definitely it was indeed the first time she had killed someone before this. Jonathan and Martha didn't know that this obedient and sensible adopted daughter had actually been a famous figure in the small town. Apart from being pretty and having excellent grades, many people in the underworld even wanted to win her over. It's just that Karla will definitely not be a big sister. After that, Karla didn't delay any longer, and continued to leave and walk outside the city. After entering a nearby alley, Karla jumped into the sky and took off. Karla became more and more proficient at controlling her own powers, and even discovered a biofield originating from herself. The so-called biological field is launched based on Karla's power, which allows Karla to apply power to a certain thing as a whole. For example, if a passenger plane loses control and falls from the sky, using the file size of a human palm to support the plane will not catch the plane, but will cut the large passenger plane in half, like putting a piece of tofu on a sharp edge. The nails are the same, and they can be worn in one bucket. But the power of the biological field is different. Instead of grabbing a piece of the plane alone, it supports the whole plane with the power of the biological standpoint. Another example is that someone falls from a high altitude. Under the interaction of forces, if you use Superman's steel body to catch the opponent, it will easily cut the opponent into 3 sections. Superman's body is the sharpest weapon. But as long as you greet each other from a biological standpoint, it will be fine, like a Simmons big bed to accept the other party. Including defense also has a great effect. Superman's uniforms, such as Karla's suit, originally had indestructible and indestructible effects, but if they encountered Kryptonian technology-level weapons, they would still be injured and their clothes would be damaged. But from a biological standpoint, one's own defense can be brought into the clothes, even ordinary clothes will be bulletproof. And including actions or flights at a speed beyond the factor, or even beyond the speed of light, the body and clothes will not be affected. Otherwise, when a supersonic flight is carried out suddenly, the huge amounts of power will tear all the clothes in an instant. Karla didn't want that. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 13. That night, Carla took a high-speed flight all the way home by herself. When she got home, her family was already asleep. Carla quietly opened the window and went back to her room. The first floor of this small building is the living room, kitchen, and other facilities. The upper floor is the living room. The main house of the adoptive parents is the largest, followed by Carla's room, and finally Clark's cabin. After changing into her pajamas, Carla quietly went downstairs to open the refrigerator. There were several cows at home, which used to be Clark's main food, but now they became the designated drink at home. After pouring a glass of milk and taking a swig, Carla's ears trembled, and she heard a slight sound of footsteps going downstairs. Carla turned around, and in the next second, she saw the figure of her adoptive mother Martha appearing at the stairs. With two sensitive children in the family, both Martha and Jonathan were in the habit of walking up and down the stairs at night very lightly so as not to wake them. Martha actually didn't sleep until now, because Carla never came back, and she was relieved when she saw her standing there. "Why so late?" Martha asked in the lowest voice. Carla pointed upstairs. "Clark is already asleep, it's fine." Martha was afraid of waking Clark up. The child still couldn't control his power as perfectly as Carla, and sometimes there were still many voices coming into his ears. So Clark is still very distressed recently. Fortunately, Clark had gradually gained control when he was sober, so he didn't act too weirdly in school anymore. "I watched a movie with Jennifer and Danny before, I didn't notice it was so late, I'm sorry," Carla briefly explained the reason, and fooled it casually. At home, Martha spoils the children very much, and generally does not speak in a harsh tone. Jonathan's words are also very caring for the two children, but he is the image of a strict father, and being a father for the first time, sometimes he appears to be extremely strict. But most of the time it is still available. Especially for Carla, Jonathan is very relieved, because he doesn't know the other side of his daughter, and even has the titles of strong girl and tyrant. If Jonathan heard the news that someone in the underworld was trying to win over Carla, his mind would probably explode. After talking with her adoptive mother for a while, Carla filled the glass again, and then returned to the upstairs room with the milk. It's as if nothing happened today, as if she didn't kill someone for the first time before, everything is so peaceful. But on the second day, things finally came to light. When I got up early in the morning, there was a police car with the school bus. Carla was taken away, allegedly in connection with a murder. Jonathan and Martha were extremely worried, and Clark also wanted to follow, but was stopped by Carla, so he didn't have to worry about himself and just continued to go to school as usual. Carla was taken to the police station and found that the two drunks yesterday, as well as Jennifer and Danny, were also brought. The body of the drunk man who died in the alley was discovered by the person in charge of taking out the garbage in the morning, and the peaceful town suddenly caused a sensation. In such a small town, the biggest situation in the past was a fight, but today there was a life lawsuit. Carla was brought into the interrogation room, where a police officer was responsible for recording a statement and asking about the process of last night. Carla is not timid either. First, she talked about the experience of 3 little girlfriends playing in the town, and finally mentioned that she and Jennifer were stalked by 3 drunk hooligans while waiting for the bus. Until the life lawsuit, Carla had described it truthfully, which was in no way different from other people's confessions, and the police officer had been nodding vaguely. Until finally disagreements arose. Donnie's confession is that she left first, so she doesn't know what happened afterwards. Jennifer's confession is that she only saw Carla take the drunk man elsewhere, and then she didn't know what happened afterwards. Regarding these confessions, Carla can actually see them, including the confessions of the 2 drunk men. They really followed Carla's last account last night, saying that a person wearing a batsuit appeared last, and they admitted that it was he killed their companions. Satisfied in her heart, Carla also said what she planned to say last night, saying that she had planned to scare the drunk, but in the alley, she met a man dressed like a bat. "I was threatened and intimidated by him so that I had to leave, and then I didn't know what happened, and I didn't dare to go back to see. What did that guy die for?" After finishing her planned confession, Carla specially guided, or lure the police officer in front of him to say what he wants to hear. The police officer on the opposite side said without thinking, he was killed by a powerful and terrifying weapon, like the legendary laser gun, or some kind of flame gun. The police officer shook his head as he said that, in fact, they have not yet determined what weapon killed the man. It has to be said that the thermal vision rays are very strong, but a small test can kill a person in an instant, and it can't even be investigated. Laser gun? Is it the one in the movie? Can it really be made? Carla began to show her acting skills, pretending to exclaim exaggeratedly, and said enviously, if there is a chance, I really want to meet that guy again and see what a real laser gun looks like. In fact, she is inducing others to focus on Batman completely. Anyway, Batman hasn't debuted yet, so where can I find him? Even if Batman made his debut, he was still a vigilante who was not protected and supported by the law at the beginning, and he was a scapegoat anyway, so I wouldn't mind if there was one more, right? That's a dangerous guy, you'd better not think about getting to know him, the police officer on the opposite side also warned Carla, who knew that the harmless and beautiful girl in front of her was the real culprit. In this way, under Carla's careful arrangement, all the clues point to the Batman who has not yet debuted. It's not that everyone else is a fool, but Carla's confession is the same as that of the two drunks, which means that both the plaintiff's and the defendant's confessions point to a third party, so there is nothing to say. In addition, the murder weapon used to kill the drunk man was really unimaginable, and all signs indicated that it had nothing to do with Carla, so it seemed so easy and smooth. In fact, Carla was also worried about whether it would be exposed, and now it seems that there should be no problem. Speaking of which, the two drunk men later were too cooperative, right? Carla showed a thoughtful expression, and she seemed to have a faint understanding in her heart. Actually, it's not that they were threatened by me. It seems that I have opened up a new ability, hypnotic ability, or something closer to mind control. It's as if Superman can't be recognized by others as long as he wears a suit and glasses. Although Superman will also do some disguises, the most important thing is that Superman can exert a suggestive effect on others, so that people can't recognize him. Look. And it was Carla who awakened this new ability last night, which made those two drunks cooperate so willingly and perfectly. Okay, you can go now, your parents are already waiting outside. At this moment, the police officer's voice brought Carla back to his senses. Carla turned her head. In fact, one-way glass was used in the interrogation room and the sound insulation effect was very good, but she still saw the adoptive parents outside. At the moment, Carla smiled at them and said it was fine. However, Jonathan's face was ugly. She could hide it from others, but she couldn't hide it from her own family. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 14. Because such a thing happened suddenly, and even Carla and the others were involved, the school happily gave the three of them a 3-day holiday so that they could adjust their status. In fact, Jennifer really needs to adjust her mentality, because she knows that Carla killed the man. But Jennifer didn't tell anyone, including Danny, who didn't know their little secret. It's not that she doesn't believe in Danny, but that Jennifer is very gentle and worried about the relationship between Danny and Carla. In fact, when she left the police station, even she didn't know how to face Carla. Including Carla's side, who was immediately taken away by her family. On the way back, the Kent family kept silent. Martha purposely sat in the back seat with Carla, holding her hand all the time as a gesture of comfort. Carla felt amused and patted the back of her adoptive mother's hand in turn, reassuring, "Mom, I'm fine." "Humph, you're definitely fine?" Jonathan, who was driving ahead, glanced at his adopted daughter behind him in the rearview mirror, and said solemnly, "Carla, tell me the truth, you must be the murderer." Martha's hands trembled. In fact, she also guessed it, but as a loving mother, she didn't think about it. As a mother, she still hoped that her daughter would be a kind and good child. But she and Jonathan both know, that's your heat vision ray. When you showed us your ability, you should know that if you use your ability to do bad things, you can't hide it from us. They almost all know about Carla's ability, including Carla's super strength, super speed, flight, thermal vision rays, clairvoyance, microscopic vision, and even farsightedness, as well as super hearing and super breathing, including that she can even hold her breath in one breath hours without needing to breathe, etc. Definitely they also have things they don't know, such as the biological standpoint, and the super hypnotic ability technique that was awakened last night, which can also be called mind control, or psychological suggestion. Faced with accusations and interrogation by her adoptive father, Carla turned away from looking out the window. The cool breeze blowing in from the open window also messed up Carla's beautiful blonde hair. She was born with blonde hair and blue eyes, and this beautiful hair alone is enough to arouse the jealousy of many girls. Because most of the girls are blonde themselves, a lot of people in the school dyed their hair blonde the day after tomorrow. But Carla is born, which is relatively rare anywhere, and has a pair of beautiful blue eyes. Carla. Martha said worriedly, "It's not you, is it? Tell Mom, you're not a murderer." Carla sighed, "Sorry, it was me." Squeak. The car suddenly slammed to a stop on the small road home, and Jonathan sat there stiffly, his eyes looking a little blank. It seems that he is actually the same as Martha. Although he guessed that it was Carla, he didn't want to believe it, but hoped that his child would be a good child. As a result, Carla directly admitted it. "Let's go back," Jonathan said, turning the car around and heading back to the police station. Carla shrugged, leaned back in her chair and said nothing. Martha was anxious. "Jonathan? What are you going to do? Do you want to send my daughter to prison?" "You can't do that." "But she killed Martha." Jonathan usually respected his wife very much, but now he reminded Martha loudly that Carla didn't make a small mistake, but killed someone. Martha didn't know what to do, so she could only turn her head and ask Carla, "Carla, tell Mom, is that person who threatened you first? Didn't you?" "Isn't it definitely?" Carla sighed helplessly, "Maybe you didn't see the detailed report? There was a gun and a broken bullet at the scene, and I was shot in the eye. Oh, bang, a bullet shattered in my eyeball. If it wasn't me, Papa, if it was you or Mama, you'd be dead." Carla was telling the truth, but she didn't know it. In fact, there was no detailed record in the report. It only mentioned that there was a broken pistol at the scene, and the fingerprints belonged to the drunk man who was killed. But as for the broken bullet, it was treated coldly because it was a bit unimaginable. Even if it was not reported or recorded, even the bullet was disposed of. Hearing Carla's words, Martha quickly held her small face and carefully checked Carla's eyes. Carla was definitely fine. Even if the bullet hit her open eyeball, it still couldn't do her any harm. Jonathan snorted softly, "Are you threatening me?" He said that's what he said, but he still turned off the car, and turned his head to look at Carla. Seeing that she was fine and Martha was caring, he didn't ask any more questions. Carla definitely wasn't threatening them, but said with a serious face, "That guy threatened me with revenge, and he will definitely hurt you and Clark in the future if he can't do anything with me. If it's just me, it doesn't matter, because after all no one can threaten me. But someone threatens you, no, he is looking for death." This is also true, Carla felt it at the time, or awakening a super premonition. In short, she had an ominous premonition that if she hadn't killed that person at that time, then that person would probably hurt her family. Clark may already have the power to protect himself, but his adoptive parents are just ordinary people. Since the family could easily get a gun, Carla would not be able to forgive herself if he broke into the house and endangered the lives of her adoptive parents. She was the one who caused the disaster, and she had a chance to avoid the tragedy, but Carla will never let go of the tragedy that happened because she did nothing. Jonathan's expression softened when he heard this. It turned out that the child was protecting his husband and wife. "But you can't kill people at will," Jonathan warned Carla, "this is the most unforgivable sin. I don't want blood on your hands in the future, and they are not worthy of you. Your childhood hope is to be a superhero." I remembered that when Carla was a child, she brought her younger brother Clark in the yard. She wore the battlesuit with the cape in her spaceship, and then tricked Clark into getting him a red blanket to hang on his shoulders. The two siblings played in the yard as well. Very happy, Jonathan couldn't stop showing a gentle look. It was precisely because his daughter had lofty goals and ideals that his heart ached even more, and he didn't want her hands to be stained with the blood of these people. However, Carla objected, "Dad, let's not talk about world wars. It doesn't matter who is right and who is wrong. But you think they are not worth it, so I shouldn't take action?" "Wrong, it is because my goal is to become a superhero, so I can't turn a blind eye. If I let him go today, maybe tomorrow more people will be attacked and killed, but what's the point of locking him up? It's just to let the crime continue to breed. It's like a certain prison that keeps the crime the worst offenders are locked up, then let them escape, locked up again, and then escaped. Who cares about the real victims?" Carla became more and more excited as she spoke, and finally had a sneer on her face, "If it's just a group of people trying to catch fame, don't mention it to me. How many people have been killed by a certain joker? How many people have been twisted? How many people have been ruined? It turns out that bad guys don't need to take responsibility for killing people, and they don't need to pay a price. They even get special treatment and care. The so-called superheroes don't protect the victims, let alone prevent tragedies from happening. Are they actually protecting the criminals? Carla shook her head slowly. That's not the superhero I want. It's only right and proper to kill people and pay debts. I will not become the umbrella of the devil. Dad, you say their blood is not worth my shot? Full of blood, I also want to wipe out all the damned people. In the end, Carla showed her powerful and terrifying aura in front of her adoptive parents for the first time. Jonathan and Martha looked at each other, and they could see the worry in each other's eyes. They knew too well how terrifying Carla and Clark's potential and current power were. If they were not restrained and controlled, it could be said that the whole world would have crisis of destruction. This is not an exaggeration at all. Carla's power is only estimated by herself. If there is no restraint, it can even tear up the earth and destroy a city with ease. Just when the two were worried and didn't know what to do, Carla suddenly changed the subject. Definitely, I'm not a murderer, I'm a normal person, not a psychopath, so I don't care about those who don't deserve to be damned. They're all killed, don't worry about that. Jonathan breathed a sigh of relief. Remember what you promised me today. Then Jonathan still didn't send Carla back to the police station, but drove home. The family will definitely talk again after they get home. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 15. Jonathan is a righteous person, including Martha, who gave Superman justice during his childhood. It is because of their influence that Superman can become one of the greatest superheroes. Possessing great power does not make people a hero. It is very likely that people will get lost in front of power and become a super criminal. After all, it is more difficult to restrain yourself than to indulge yourself. Including Carla has been under the influence of Jonathan and Martha, and she has longed for a superhero, so she said a long time ago that she would dream of being a superhero in the future. But only this time, even Jonathan felt awkward and hesitation. After all, Carla killed someone, but what she did was right or wrong, and even Jonathan didn't know how to choose. Homicide originally is certainly a grave mistake and the most unforgivable crime. But Carla was attacked. She was first molested by the man, and then shot. If she didn't have the power of Superman, she would have died. That can only be regarded as a counterattack in self-defense. You can't think that Superman can be attacked at will just because Superman has great power. Can't you beat and scold at will without getting hurt? Can you take away part of a person's property just because he is rich? Just because a person is healthy, you can beat him up? What gangster logic is this? In fact, the most important thing is Carla's scary-sounding remarks and thoughts, which are what Jonathan is most worried about. He could already foresee that in the future, Carla would definitely become a ruthless killer with an iron face and selfless eyes. And the only thing she promised was that she would not kill anyone who should not die, but in other words, no one should be left behind. He was worried about what Carla would become in the future. Relatively speaking, Martha's thinking was much simpler. She was only worried about whether Carla was injured. Carla was very helpless, she was really fine, but the adoptive mother was too worried, and walked around her for a day, opening her eyelids from time to time to see if her eyes were affected, or if there was any shrapnel left to cause infection. Obviously there is only one eye, but Martha carefully looked at each eye dozens of times. Carla explained that even if there were shrapnel remaining, they would be crushed in the blink of an eyelid. But she still benefited from the care from her adoptive mother. It wasn't until that afternoon that Jonathan asked Martha to watch Carla, and he went to pick up Clark from school, and the family was considered quiet. After Clark came back, he suddenly hugged Carla. It turned out that even he had heard the news that his sister had been involved in a murder case. "It's okay, Clark, sister is okay," Carla comforted her brother who was 10 years younger with a gratified smile. Clark carefully looked up at Carla's expression and there was nothing wrong with her body, and then let go of his hand. "Someone in the school keeps saying bad things about my sister, saying that you are a troublesome woman, and you are the one who caused it." Carla raised her eyelids. She thought those people were praising her beauty. Really, no matter in which world there are people like this, because girls are beautiful, so after being attacked, it is the girls themselves who are wrong to speak ill of girls. Carla wondered, shouldn't the bad guys be punished? Still the same sentence, because people have money, can they rob casually? When it's over, why are they so rich? Don't worry about what they say. If you feel annoying to Clark, just ignore them. If anyone dares to bully you, tell your sister when you come back, and she will beat them up. Carla wanted to comfort her brother in turn. Not far away, Jonathan rolled his eyes, pulled Clark away quickly, and said not to let Carla lead Clark away. The power of their siblings is terrifying enough. If they are allowed to make trouble without restraint, something will really happen. So Jonathan didn't dare to let Carla instill dangerous things in Clark casually. Because of what happened to Carla today, Martha specially asked Jonathan to buy some steaks and some fish when he came back. The fish here is not bought by the strip, but in pieces or slices. It is the kind of fish after the whole fish is cut and the places with many thorns are removed. Some are called fish blocks piece by piece, and some are called piece by piece. Fillet. Carla hadn't gotten used to it for a while, and obviously wanted to eat fish head soup, or braised cod. As a result, only the whole cod meat is used here, either pan-fried or made into fish broth. The taste is definitely not the Chinese food she used to eat. Today Martha prepared 3 pieces of steak and 5 pieces of fried fish for Carla and Clark, as well as rice, potato and pumpkin soup, and a large bowl of vegetable salad prepared with fresh vegetables. Fortunately, they have a farm in their own family, otherwise these vegetables would be more expensive than meat, not because there is no fruit and vegetable production here, on the contrary, there are many large farmers in a country with many people and little land. This is because the cost of labor is too high, so vegetables are more expensive than meat. As for meat, there are more and more advanced machines to process all kinds of meat, which is much cheaper. Carla and Clark's appetite is not small, even Jonathan can't match it, maybe their stomachs are also Superman level. After dinner, before going to bed at night, Carla also received a call from Danny and Jennifer. The former questioned Carla for a while, because Danny went home early and didn't know what happened afterwards. When it was Jennifer's turn, the 2 close girlfriends suddenly fell silent for a long time, looking very embarrassed. Finally, when the cable was being pulled up, Jennifer said to Carla, "Carla, I believe you, you must not be a bad girl." Carla felt amused. "What are you talking about? We were the ones who were almost hit by so and so before, and if that shot was aimed at you, you would have died." In fact, Jennifer was also afraid for a while, and then felt strange. "Speaking of which, the shot didn't hit you." Carla opened her mouth without even thinking about it. "Nonsense, do you think I've been shot?" Unexpectedly, Jennifer said, "I seem to see a scene of sparks in you, as if." "Then you must have misunderstood it." "Well, it happens to be 2 days off. Let's go out and have fun, and we'll meet and talk tomorrow," Carla said while fooling around with Jennifer. "I really heard something." Jennifer heard that she didn't want to talk about bullets, and smartly followed Carla's words. "You won't stay at home to help? Dolly girl." "Hey!" Carla said anxiously, "Don't call me that title, damn it, and I don't know who gave it to me. When I find him, I must make him look good. As for helping, forget it, my parents are so annoying these days and I'm sure you'll be annoyed if you see me, so I'd better hide." While she was going to be bored to death by Martha, she was also going to be bored to death by Jonathan. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 16. During the 2 days of vacation, it was rare for Carla not to help at home. The main reason is that Jonathan doesn't know how to guide this 15-year-old adopted daughter. Moreover, Carla and Clark are different. When they came to Earth, they had their own memories and opinions. It is difficult to establish values like Clark did from an early age. Definitely Jonathan didn't even know that Carla actually had another memory. She came from time travel, and this identity was even more mysterious. So the next morning, Carla and Clark got on his school bus and left to play with the little sisters in the city. Carla also took this school bus a few years ago, and greeted the driver very familiarly. But when Carla and Clark sat down in the back seat, there was a murmur from around. "Is she the woman in the news?" "It's her. You look really good looking, no wonder she will seduce others." Clark obviously heard these whispers. The little guy was still very protective of his sister, and was about to stand up immediately. But Carla put her hand on her younger brother's shoulder and stood up by herself. When is it her turn to let her brother protect her? I thought there was a fly in the car and made a noise. What's going on? Do you dare to mutter behind your back? I'm right here, dare you stand up? Carla stood in the middle of the aisle, even if the school bus shook her, not moving at all. Carla looked at those gossipers and sneered, how dare you speak ill of people behind their backs with this little guts? Those few dared not stand up to face Carla, who was at least 5 years older than them. But Carla didn't intend to end it like this. She raised her head with her arms around her shoulders, glanced at everyone in the car, and said with a sneer, a group of cowards, brats, what? I heard that someone is going to bully my brother? Who can bully people, believe it or not, I will find some people to block your school gate every day in a few days. At the moment, she doesn't want to be a superhero at all, she is just a sister who protects the shortcomings and bullies the elementary school students. Not only elementary school students, 5-year-old children can only go to a kind of school similar to preschool or kindergarten, and the oldest is only 6 or 7 years old. Don't talk about one playing two, she probably has no problem playing one class alone, I mean without super strength. In the end, even the driver couldn't stand it anymore, and shouted without turning his head, Dolly girl, it's you again, you used to bully the whole car when you were in elementary school, and now you are bullying this girl again. Are you a member of the first class? Sit down quickly, and be careful that I will call your father and ask him to teach you a lesson. Carla was so angry that her teeth were itching. Why did the school bus driver hear the title of Dolly Girl? Which BD passed it on? Don't let her know. Hey, Carla snorted, and gave someone a random glare, some fat little guy. The little fat man was very innocent, he lowered his head and dared not speak. Carla also left a warning before sitting down again, you don't need to play with my brother, and he doesn't need to play with you bastards. He will naturally have his own real partners and friends in the future. But you think he is kind and gentle, it's easy to bully, then it's a big mistake. If you have a big brother-sister in your family, then ask for the name of the old lady, I will really make people block your school gate. The children, who had never seen such a hooligan before, were immediately silent and didn't dare to say another word. The driver shook his head dumbfounded. She was such a beautiful girl, but she was usually very polite and well behaved. But for some reason today it's become so, hooligan. There is no way. After all, it is related to Carla's younger brother. She doesn't care what others say about her behind her back, but she has heard that her brother has been excluded in school. Some people even dare to bully him, which is not acceptable. As Clark grew older, his strength also became stronger. But because of Jonathan's instructions, he has never dared to have conflicts and disputes with others, so Carla can only protect his younger brother. Even Carla's original responsibility was to take care of Clark when he grew up. After all, they were siblings, cousins, with the same surname, and belonged to the same family. After a short episode, the school bus came to the city in silence, and Carla got off the bus with the others until the gate of Clark's school. At the door, Carla took out $50 and handed it to Clark as pocket money, and if he was hungry at noon, he could buy something delicious. Clark has her own pocket money, but it is much less than her sister's. The reason is not that Carla is more favored by her adoptive parents, but that Carla has always been helping the family, so her adoptive parents will give her a little more pocket money. What's more, Carla is 15 years old, and she is a big girl. There are many places where money is needed. Normally, it is a lot, but Carla has never spent much money, and has saved a lot of money in the past. As an aside, Carla may not even have a menstrual period because she is a Kryptonian. Or maybe it's because she has the quality of Superman, so she doesn't need to detoxify, which also saves a lot of money. There are also clothes. She wears a few jeans all year round, jeans, sneakers, and denim tops or small shirts, which are simple, convenient, and cheap. As for the dresses that other girls like, she doesn't care much. Once Martha thought she didn't want to waste money and insisted on buying her a pure white dress. But Carla asked her adoptive mother, if she flew up, wouldn't the people below see everything? It turned out that this was what she cared about. Even later, Carla prepared some shorts in advance, the kind of shorts that only reach the knees, not for normal wear, but intended to be used as safety pants when wearing combat uniforms in the future. The result is that it has not been used for several years. After dropping off Clark, Carla called Jennifer and Danny, and the 3 little girlfriends found a place to meet up. Since the school was so considerate and gave them 3 days off, they definitely didn't hesitate to take full advantage of it. Even Danny boldly proposed to go to a nearby big city, that is, the most famous city, Metropolis. Metropolis, which is where Superman lives and fights in the original book, is also the headquarters of the Daily Planet where Superman went to work after high school. Unlike this small town, Metropolis is a bustling metropolis. Young people are more or less unavoidable yearning for the life in the bustling city, and even Carla is curious about the metropolis, so Donnie's proposal hit it off. They plan to take the train there in the morning and come back by train in the evening after a day of fun. Anyway, I have nothing to do tomorrow, so it shouldn't be a big problem even if they stay overnight. After all, they have Carla to protect them. But what if something happened on the way? What if something happened to Carla on the halfway train? Have they thought about it? Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 17. The metropolis is not far from the town where Carla and the others live, and there are also trains that can go there directly, and there are even many trains, which are open all day. So Carla and the other three bold girls immediately decided to have fun. Definitely, after buying the ticket, they still called their family to let them know. The adults of the three families are very helpless. You have all bought the tickets, can you still let you refund the tickets and go home? This is simply a cut first and then play later. So the adults can only tell them to be careful, and ask them to come back before the last bus, and if necessary, the adults will go to the station to pick them up. Also, if the money is accidentally spent, you can also ask the adults to find a way, so as not to scare you away in a panic. In short, told a lot of things. Especially in the Kent family, Martha kept asking Carla if she had enough money, and Jonathan kept telling her not to make trouble, let alone expose her strength and so on. How should I put it? It's very annoying, but that's also an expression of concern from the elders. After calling with their family members, the three girls finally got on the train and chose a partition specially. It is still an old-fashioned train. The chairs on both sides can seat a total of 4 people, and there is a table in the middle. Danny and Jennifer sat across from each other, and Carla leaned against the window on this side. They also bought some snacks and the like to eat on the way. The three of them chatted, looking forward to it. Even Carla guessed in her heart that although the metropolis is a virtual city, it still has a prototype after all. It is said to be New York City, and it is also said to be Manhattan. The former is considered to be New York City because of its prosperity, while the latter is because of its geographical location. Even if the current metropolis is not as prosperous and advanced as it will be in the future, it will at least be much better than their small town. And their main target today is actually the amusement park in the metropolis. The small town only has a park and a few chairs, and at most there are a few things to fool children, such as seesaws, swings and other facilities. Even if the small town buys large-scale equipment such as roller coasters, jumping machines, and pirate ships, how many people will ride it? Will pay to die. So they can only think about going to a big city like a metropolis to have fun. On the way, before the train started, the three of them had already started planning what to do after getting off the train. First of all, they have to go to those big shopping malls. Even if they can't afford it, it doesn't matter, they can look at those beautiful clothes and jewelry, because they are still young, so the pursuit of high heels is not too high. Then go to see the difference between the movie theaters in big cities and those in small towns. Definitely they don't really go to the movies to cherish their time. There are also things to buy, drinks and milk tea. Finally, go to the amusement park in the metropolis. They also debated whether to go to the amusement park or the zoo. Danny wanted to go to the amusement park, and Jennifer wanted to go to the zoo. Later, because Carla voted for the amusement park, Jennifer had to submit. Carla felt amused. It was not that they didn't organize activities to go to the zoo when they were in elementary school, but they didn't come to the amusement park a few times. The three chatted happily, and at the same time, Carla was also doubting whether those roller coasters and other facilities would bring surprises to herself. She can fly herself now, and she plays wilder. At the highest point, she crossed the clouds and reached a height of 20,000 meters, and then fell headlong in one breath, until she was a few meters above the ground, and then reversed her direction in one breath. Fly elsewhere. Sometimes she would go to a small island in the sea, and then go to the sea to catch fresh seafood and bake it. At first she would take it home, but Jonathan would scold her and stop her from running around, and then she would play by herself. So is this trip to the amusement park really worth the wait? We can only wait and see. And just when the three girls were chatting happily, suddenly, an accident happened. In an instant, Carla noticed something strange. First of all, the voices of the friends around her were gradually fading away. They were obviously by her side, but with Carla's super hearing beyond ordinary people, she couldn't hear their voices and conversations clearly. Then Carla also noticed that some symbols inexplicably appeared on the walls of the surrounding trains, especially there was a display screen on the top of the train aisle, like a streaming broadcast to see if there is anyone in the toilet, and the destination of the next stop, etc. Wait. But now there are some symbols with unknown meanings on it, as if, it seems to be some kind of magic spell. In the end, even the speed of the train began to get out of control, as if it had accelerated dozens of times at once. If it were an ordinary person, she would be terrified, but Carla is not an ordinary person, and even this speed can't scare her. It's just that when Carla stood up subconsciously, she felt her eyes blurred and her mind blurred. All the other guests around her disappeared, and she was the only one standing there. At the same time, the train gradually stopped, and a mysterious space appeared outside this carriage. Through the glass, Carla saw a cave surrounded by all kinds of rocks, as if it was not on the earth. Crack! Suddenly the train doors of the train opened. Does that mean you want me to get out of the car? Carla raised her eyebrows, guessing what it meant. Normally she wouldn't pay attention to it, but Carla chose to get out of the car directly because of her skillful courage. Let's see who it is. Carla's purpose is also very simple, just to see who is up to it. In the worst case, she would run away. The top speed of the train just now was only the speed of sound, but now she can fly at supersonic speed. The most important thing is that the other party is obviously targeting her. Carla is worried that if she doesn't solve it, she will threaten her family. There is a saying that is good, if you can run away, the monk can't run away from the temple. Carla is the monk now, and her family is the temple. Sometimes what she fears and worries the most is that someone will harm her family. So she had to come forward. Go over the train gate, because it's not a platform, so Carla has to jump from a distance. Anyway, she is not the kind of weak woman, but it doesn't matter. After getting out of the train door, Carla turned around and found that the train behind her had disappeared. Everything I see and experience now reveals a touch of weirdness. Carla couldn't help frowning and showing a dignified expression, but she continued to walk forward, and after passing through a stone tunnel, she came to another space. It was a spacious hall, and some weird and terrifying sculptures could be seen on one of the walls, and Carla could even feel them, as if they were living creatures, exuding a terrifying and evil aura. In the innermost part of the hall is obviously a conference table, with 7 chairs placed in a circle, but only one of them has an old man with long hair and beard sitting on it. I am Necromancer Shazam, I have been waiting for you, my champion. What? Carla was dumbfounded on the spot. Shazam? Are you kidding me? Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 18. No wonder Carla felt that this place was no longer the Earth. In fact, it was no longer the Earth. Strictly speaking, this is a space called the Rock of Eternity, which does not belong to the Earth, but a place that transcends the concept of time and space on the Earth. It is mysterious and unpredictable, with gates connected to many magical worlds, and some dangerous things are sealed, such as meditation might. This thing looks like a caterpillar, but it is said to come from Venus. It is an alien insect that has superhuman intelligence and can control other people's brains. At the same time, it is also Shazam, the old opponent of Captain Fantastic. Speaking of which, in fact, Shazam's original publication and title have always been Captain Marvel. Yes, that's Captain Marvel. The original Shazam had nothing to do with the DC universe, but was created by a small magazine called Fawcett Comics. However, Shazam's power settings and costumes almost overlapped with Superman's, so he was sued by DC. And the name Captain Marvel. You know, the predecessor of Marvel was called Marvel Comics. It is better to say that Marvel's Marvel originally meant surprise, and the old translation was indeed Marvel Comics. It's just now officially changed globally to Marvel Comics. So when DC bought the Shazam character, Marvel also bought the title. In the end, Shazam became a member of DC Comics, and the title of Captain Marvel was taken by Marvel. I also want to know that it is impossible for Marvel to let DC have a Captain Marvel, right? That's not crazy. It's a bit of a stretch. In short, Thunder Shazam once also had the title of Captain Marvel, and was even the first superhero in live-action movies. Superman is indeed the first superhero in the comic world, yes, but Shazam is the first live-action hero movie to be put on the big screen. Later, in order to distinguish it from Marvel's Captain Marvel, it became Shazam. And now, Karla somehow came to the Rock of Eternity suddenly, and the old man who appeared in front of him was the necromancer Shazam who gave Shazam the power of Shazam. Whether it is Shazam or Black Adam, that is, another Shazam, it can also be called Egyptian Shazam because his power comes from the gods of the Egyptian pantheon. The power of the two generations of Shazam comes from this necromancer Shazam. In fact, the two generations of Shazam were just mortals who borrowed divine power, but the necromancer Shazam in front of him is the real God-man. He should be a certain god. It was after he made an agreement with the gods that the gods agreed to lend him Shazam power. Now, the necromancer Shazam came to Karla and shouted, "My champion, successor, I have been waiting for you for a long time." Karla blinked, quickly stretched out her hand and said, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" She was a little confused about the situation. Why did she suddenly come to the Rock of Eternity? And this necromancer Shazam seems to think he is his successor? Isn't she going to become a female Shazam? Never. Karla herself is a female Superman now. It's not that she looks down on Shazam's power, but it's unnecessary. Besides, the power of Shazam is borrowed from other people's power after all. What if others don't borrow it? Even the power of Shazam was replaced by Yuga Khan of the New Protoss and Darkseid and Superman of the New Protoss were sworn enemies and were defeated. One is to borrow Asir's strength, and the other is the power that can defeat the Protoss. I don't know which one is stronger and weaker. That's why Karla doesn't want to inherit the power of Shazam. To put it bluntly, the power of Shazam must not surpass the Protoss, because his power was given by the Protoss. So when the necromancer Shazam was about to explain to Karla, she interrupted the necromancer Shazam again and pointed to the monster statue on the wall. Now that she knows where it is, Karla finally knows what those evil statues are. They are indeed still alive, they are only temporarily sealed by the necromancer Shazam, because they are generally considered unkillable. Yes, they are exactly the 7 deadly sins. Karla said suddenly, "These guys are talking bad about you, do you want me to clean them up for you? Even without your Shazam power, I can help." As she spoke, Karla slowly floated up. Since she was here, she could definitely show her strength as she wanted. As for the 7 deadly sins, it would be difficult to solve them if they were still illusory, but since they have become things on the material side, there is a way to defeat them. The necromancer Shazam looked at Karla in surprise. Karla spread his hands, "Don't you still know who I am? My name is Kara Zor-El, the last daughter of Krypton. If you can, I hope you call me Supergirl, or simply you can just call me Female Superman." Karla finds it funny, she really doesn't need the so-called power of Shazam, because she already has the power of Superman powerful enough. "I don't even know why I came here." Karla looked around. It might seem mysterious here, but she wasn't surprised, because she herself was an existence worthy of shock. Necromancer Shazam explained, "The reason is also very simple. I used search magic, and all those who are qualified to inherit power will be brought here." "I see." Karla had to remind Necromancer Shazam, "Then you have to keep your eyes open, don't choose the wrong person, otherwise there will be endless troubles." Unexpectedly, Necromancer Shazam also knew this, "I will choose a person with a pure heart as my champion, and it will never happen before." Before? By the way, Black Adam has probably existed for more than 5,000 years, and that is a negative example of the Necromancer Shazam. "Okay, I don't need your Shazam power. I think you will meet a boy with a pure heart in the future, but that's obviously not me." Karla smiled self-deprecatingly. "Is the heart pure? Sorry, you lost your eye again." Karla pointed at herself consciously, "Actually, I'm a very selfish bad girl. I don't have a so-called pure heart, so you can send me back. Definitely, if you have any magic books to make me increase a little bit of knowledge about magic would be nice." Karla may be worried that she only has strong physical fitness and strength from the Kryptonians, but the magic resistance seems to be almost zero. After all, Superman's power is all physical. If there is a chance, I still want to read about magic. Unexpectedly, the necromancer Shazam looked at Karla deeply, and actually took out a book and handed it over. Karla took the book curiously, and looked up at necromancer Shazam. "I heard him say, don't underestimate yourself. I don't think people who are brave enough to look into their own hearts are treacherous villains, do you, Definitely not. Carla rolled her eyes. She was going to be a superhero, but maybe her methods were a bit cruel. The necromancer Shazam pointed to the book and continued, it really can only give you insight, it can increase your willpower, and it can also make you somewhat resistant to magical power. If one day, I hope you can help deal with these the 7 deadly sins. No problem. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 19. In a daze, Carla returned to her seat on the train, and no one seemed to notice her departure just now. If it is an ordinary person, it is very likely that the experience he just experienced was a hallucination or a dream after taking a nap unconsciously. But Carla clearly remembered what happened, and even held the magic book that Necromancer Shazam gave her at the end. Where did you buy this? Jennifer and Danny on the opposite side also noticed the book in Carla's hand. The magic book was made of pure black sheepskin or cowhide, and the cover was inlaid with gold thread, which looked very beautiful. Carla came back to her senses, temporarily ignoring the encounter at the Rock of Eternity. Smiling at the girlfriends on the opposite side, Carla opened the magic book in her hand, and said casually, I found it at home, maybe it was a novel written by my dad when he was in school when he fell ill. Jonathan was innocently tricked. Jennifer and Danny on the opposite side looked at each other and let out a low chuckle. Looking at Carla again, she couldn't wait to flip through the magic book in her hand. With Superman's super learning ability, coupled with the ability to see 10 lines at a glance and never forget, Carla quickly finished reading the book. The Necromancer Shazam was right. He was not exaggerating at all. This book is really just an entry-level book for magic apprentices. It really just let Carla know about the power of magic. It's so simple. Carla gritted her teeth and smiled, but a vein on her forehead was throbbing. She was just being modest and asked if there was any entry-level magic book for herself to read, but the old necromancer really gave herself an entry-level introduction. It's your fault that you can't find a successor, damn it, you can't find it in your life. No, it seems that Shazam is still very useful. For example, when encountering enemies on the magic side, that kid is also very helpful. But the words come back again, in fact, the magical power in the DC world is very strange and difficult to explain clearly. For example, Shazam, although his power setting is very similar to Superman, he has super strength, super speed, and so on. But Shazam's power is set as magical power, including his Shazam's power also comes from begging and borrowing from the gods. For example, the wisdom of Solomon, generally called the locked door by fans, the strength of Hercules, Heracles, the stamina of Atlas, the power of Zeus, the courage of Achilles and the courage of Mercury. Speed. The initials of these gods happen to be Shazam, and the phrase Shazam must also be formed. S for Solomon, H for Hercules, A for Atlas, Z for Zeus, A for Achilles, and M for Mercury. But think about Shazam's combat mode. He usually shouts Shazam, and then rushes up to punch and kick the enemy. Where is the magical power? Is it because one of Shazam's strongest attack methods is to hold the enemy and call Shazam, and then attract terrible lightning to attack the enemy? Carla clutched her aching forehead. If she knew, she would have tried to accept the inheritance. Imagine that if physical attacks were not enough, she would hug the enemy and play a song of Shazam, Shazam 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 Shazam. Speaking of which, there are still various magical scenes in Marvel's Doctor Strange Next Door, especially against the Titan Thanos, even Ebony Maw, and Scarlet Witch, etc. At least a few magic light waves Bayou. In fact, because of her birth, Wonder Woman is actually a superhero with magical blood. Her father is the legendary Zeus, and her mother is the Queen of Amazon. So Wonder Woman's power should belong to the magic side, but Wonder Woman's fighting style is also. Anyway, it's over. I really don't understand it. This entry-level magic book made Carla a little disappointed. It actually recorded some things about the introduction of magic, such as the 4 elements, wind, fire, water, also called chi, soil, and the most basic control of spiritual power. The necromancer Shazam also said that he hoped that Carla could master some resistance to magic through this magic book. He was telling the truth, maybe it was too real, so Carla didn't expect that what he said was not humble at all. As for the introductory magic of the 4 elements, snap your fingers to create a cluster of flames that can be more vigorous than a lighter, summon a ball of water in the palm of your hand, and create a small hurricane in the air, and you can control a piece of mud and brick. If that counts as magic. But the method on how to control willpower, that is, mental power, Carla thinks it's not bad, and only this chapter is really useful. Carla tried a little bit, secretly formed psychokinesis with mental power, and moved towards a glass of drink on the table. This was just a little bit of trying. She added some strength and found that she could hold the drink like her own hand stand up. But she didn't continue to do it, and she didn't want to be discovered. I'm going to the toilet. Carla stood up, carrying the magic book that had been fully memorized and read the contents, got up and walked to the toilet. This book is a real magic book, and anyone who gets it may succeed in cultivation. Carla knows its importance, so she dare not collect it casually, it will be bad if it is taken away by others. Anyway, Carla memorized the content by herself, so she can teach Clark in the future, so there is no need for books. So Carla came to the toilet. She didn't really want to go to the toilet, but summoned a flame in the palm of her hand with the magic she learned now. In terms of Carla's strength, even if her whole body is on fire, she won't be hurt, not to mention that this is the flame she summoned herself. Carla just held the magic book in her hand, intending to burn it to ashes with flames so as not to leave hidden dangers. But Carla didn't expect that the magic book in her hand would not be burned to ashes after being ignited by the fire, but turned into 5 books instead. Carla opened her mouth wide. Why is she still breathing? Wait a moment. Carla quickly put away the flames in her palm, picked up one of them and opened it, put the other 4 books under her arm, and quickly flipped through the book in her hand. That book still records things related to spiritual power, but it is no longer as simple as an entry-level one, but an advanced version. The power of mental power is not as simple as psychokinesis, which is only the most entry-level. When the mental power is strong and you have enough means, you can even use psychokinesis to break through the barriers of time and space. The former can foresee the future and observe the past, and the latter can open the portal to enter the space you want to go to. For example, if Shazam wants to go to the Rock of Eternity, he needs strong willpower. The other 4 books are also advanced versions of the 4 elements, which are more high-level methods that should have the 4 elements. Carla didn't expect that there would be a follow-up to the magic book, so she was overjoyed and quickly read it. She is beginning to master the power of magic. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 20. In the toilet, Carla frantically memorized the contents of the 5 books that suddenly split into her brain. If the first book is just an introduction to magic, then these 5 books are advanced high-level magic books. And many people may not know that Kryptonians do not reject and resist magic attributes, which means that if Kryptonians have the opportunity to come into contact with magical power, they can definitely learn it. Even Kryptonians will only get twice the result with half the effort because of their strong physical fitness and mental strength. The premise is to have the opportunity to master this power. Another point is that many people mistakenly believe that Superman is purely physical power, but the magic resistance to magical power is almost zero. This is definitely wrong. For example, many people should have heard of Pingtuj, the honey badger. Honey badgers have high poison resistance, so they almost ignore the venom of the most poisonous snake in the world, and they can eat snakes as spicy noodles despite the poison of poisonous snakes. At most, it's just a coma for a while, and you can continue to eat after you wake up from sleep. And Superman has also been knocked out by magic many times in the comics, but he was only in a coma for a period of time. If this still doesn't reflect the magic resistance, then let's look at his confrontation with Wonder Woman. Others are almost captured by mantra lassos, but Superman doesn't, it just weakens some of his strength. There was even Wonder Woman Blacken, and then Superman used the lasso of mantra to bring Wonder Woman back to her senses. All signs have shown that the magic resistance of Kryptonians is not zero, but they really don't have much magic power. As for the troublemaker who always makes trouble for Superman, it is a 5-dimensional creature. This kind of 5-dimensional creature is completely unreasonable. It can create things out of thin air, and can also rewrite reality at will, which is confusing. It's a bit of a funny character invincibility stock, like Errol from the Dragon Ball world can even beat Vegeta. Vegeta can burst into stardom, but he will be defeated by Errol in the end. This kind of plot has no logic at all. The setting of the 5-dimensional person can change the reality as he likes, without any theory to support it, he can do whatever he wants. Doesn't this mean that they are comparable to those who created the multi-universe? Each is a creator who can create a multi-universe? It's a bit far-fetched, after all, I haven't started to get in touch with 5-dimensional people. Here, Carla has quickly mastered all the contents of the high-level magic book. At present, she just writes down the contents at a glance, and she will study them slowly when she has time. After she mastered all the contents, the 5 magic books in her hand suddenly burned by themselves, and instantly turned into ashes. It turned out that it was organized. Even the words of the necromancer Shazam sounded in Carla's ears. If you choose to burn it after reading the book, the following content will appear. If you want to collect it, then you will only see the entry-level one in the end. It's just the content. You didn't disappoint me. If you choose to inherit my power, you can call Shazam's name to return to this space at any time, and I will always be waiting for you. Unexpectedly, Necromancer Shazam is still very optimistic about Carla. But Carla smiled and shook her head. Forget it, as long as you have these powers that can resist magic, it's enough. In the final analysis, her power still comes from her own Kryptonian blood, which is the foundation of her power. As long as she continues to grow and soak in the sun's rays, she will become stronger and stronger. She doesn't need to beg or borrow other people's power. Carla doesn't need magic power as her main power, all she needs is a better way to resist the enemy's magic power, that's all. At this time, there was a sudden knock on the door, and the voices of Jennifer and Danny sounded from outside. Carla? Are you okay? We will arrive at the station soon. It turned out that they were a little worried after seeing that Carla hadn't come out for so long. Carla collected her thoughts, opened the door and walked out, facing her friend with a smile and said, I've been a little constipated recently, so I've been delayed for a while. Is it almost there? Both Jennifer and Danny showed disgusted expressions. Don't say it, and immediately felt as if there was a bad smell coming out. In fact, it was all a psychological effect, because Carla didn't go to the toilet, but kept flipping through the magic book. If there is a fragrance in the book, it should be full of fragrance. Carla just laughed, and deliberately reached out and waved at the two of them. Donnie's face became even darker. You didn't wash your hands, did you? How is it possible? She was sterilized by the flames of the 5 books that spontaneously ignited. Okay, don't make a fuss, go back and sit for a while, we will arrive at the station soon. Jennifer went back first as if fleeing, followed by Danny. Carla, who was lagging behind, showed a thoughtful expression. The advanced version of the magic book does contain many interesting things, and she may gain a lot from this. Even Carla had her first foresight. She saw a picture of the future. One day in the future, there will be a crisis in the Rock of Eternity. The necromancer Shazam died for unknown reasons, and disappeared into a cloud of dust. At that time, the sealed 7 deadly sins will turn into terrifying demons to disturb the world, and the meditating might will also escape, and many magical worlds may be unstable. The next Thunder Shazam is originally just a 15-year-old boy, and he cannot be entrusted with important tasks. At that time, maybe Carla will have to help because she accepted the favor of Necromancer Shazam today. Nasty old Necromancer, he is actually plotting against Carla. No matter whether Carla wants to become the successor of Necromancer Shazam because of this magical power or not, she will help when the 7 deadly sins escape in the future. But Carla did bear the benefits of others. That's how it is. Carla didn't continue to entangle, but accepted the responsibility one day in the future with relief, not to mention that since she wanted to be a superhero in the future, if something happened, she would definitely take care of it. Then there's nothing to worry about. Next, Carla returned to the original position, and the 3 girlfriends continued to chat happily. Not long after the train went on, they finally arrived at the metropolis before 10 o'clock in the morning. It is really a bustling city, and the scale alone is far from comparable to that of a small town. It is said that Metropolis and Gotham City are still close to each other, not too far apart. Carla said in her heart that she would not go to Gotham City to develop in the future, absolutely not, no matter how much she gave. Ask how much she gave first. The 3 girls started their trip, walking around the metropolis. They went to the busiest commercial street, walked through a few shops without looking to buy, and were fascinated by the dazzling array of things inside. I also went to the best and largest cinema and found that there are more types of movies shown here. But what they care most about is the amusement park. Then Carla found out that she was really not interested in facilities like roller coasters. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 21. After a day of crazy fun in the metropolis, when the evening approached, the three girls were quite well behaved and sensible, and they took the train back before catching the last train. The adults of the three families each sent male hosts to pick them up, and the three fathers also knew each other because of their children, and they could chat while waiting for the train. After they came out of the train station, the three families said goodbye briefly, and then drove home. I have to say that the cars used by the three families belong to Carla's family. The pickup truck is relatively old, but Carla didn't care at all, and excitedly told Jonathan the interesting things he had seen in the metropolis, even the halfway experience. I met an old necromancer, and he gave me a magic book. Carla didn't hide, even her and Clark's foster parents knew the biggest secret, let alone such a small thing. But Jonathan was very worried. Necromancer? Magic book? What trouble have you caused? Carla is innocent, why say again? Is she a troublemaker? Really, the family doesn't know her other side, so it's good not to talk about it casually. No, the necromancer may have asked me for something, so he gave me some benefits in advance, Carla said nonchalantly. She had a passive foreknowledge before and saw a picture of the future. Sooner or later, the 7 deadly sins will break free. Once the new Shazam can't deal with the 7 monsters, then she will come forward. Or that foresight might not be her ability, maybe the necromancer Shazam showed it to her on purpose. Carla initially wondered why the necromancer Shazam was so easy to talk, and gave her the magic book so easily. But later she understood that this is short-handed, and the favors owed must always be repaid. This can also be regarded as the investment of necromancer Shazam. After all, Carla and Clark rely on the physical fitness of Kryptonians, that is to say, they all come from physical strength. But the 7 deadly sins are monsters on the magic side. Giving Carla the magic book, actually 5, no, it should add up to 6, is also to give her the strength and methods to deal with the 7 deadly sins in the future. What kind of magic book is that? Jonathan's expression was a little worried, and he even had some doubts. Could it be able to summon demons? Carla rolled her eyes. You think too much, and I'm not a fool. I don't want things that are full of malice when I hear them. In fact, this is a serious, regular magic book, which includes the cultivation of spiritual power. And the control of the 4 elements, for example. As Carla spoke, she raised her right hand and snapped her slender fingers like pale green, and a ball of flame sprang up from her fingertips. Jonathan glanced sideways at Carla and immediately turned back to focus on driving. After a moment of silence, he couldn't help but said, I've saved the lighter. That's really only a little higher than the flame of a lighter. Carla froze. The complaint from her adoptive father made her unable to refute. Okay. Carla put away the flames, leaned sideways on the car door, turned her head to look at the surrounding environment passing by outside, not knowing what to think. Jonathan glanced at Carla out of the corner of his eye, as if he had noticed something. What? Do you want to go to the metropolis after graduation? Can you guess this too? Carla turned around and agreed, there must be such considerations, after all, you can't spend your whole life farming in the countryside, can you? Jonathan didn't care about the offense in Carla's words, knowing she was just telling the truth. But he could also feel Carla's hesitation, and couldn't help but smile and said, Are you worried about me and your mother? And Clark? Carla scratched the back of her head. She was also a young girl, and she certainly didn't want to be trapped in the farmland for the rest of her life. If she could, she would also like to wear OL clothes, sit in the office or write copywriting, which is not bad. It's so close to home, I can go home every week or every month. But Clark was still too young, including Jonathan and Martha made her feel at ease, or she had already become dependent on this family, like a child going out for the first time, always a little uneasy. I'm just in high school now, at least I won't think about my future until I graduate, whether I'm going to go to university, or go find a job directly, let's talk about it after that. Carla raised her hand to support the car window, her face a little dazed looking outside. After all, she is only 15 years old, and she hasn't figured out what to do in the future. Or why not try the Daily Planet? If she uses her ability to be a reporter, she can definitely unearth many secrets. Like which big star is dating whom, or pictures of which star changes in the locker room. No, it seems too dishonest. If she really started to act recklessly, there might be chaos in the world. Jonathan glanced at his adopted daughter again, knowing what she was thinking, and didn't bother her, just focused on driving straight to the direction of home. The school only gave 3 days off, and on the last day Carla chose to stay at home to help out and take care of the farm. With her help, Jonathan can relax a lot. She alone is more convenient, faster and more powerful than any machine. There are no other people around here, and Carla can sway her strength to the whole farm as much as she wants. Then after the 3-day vacation, Carla will start to go to school again on the 4th morning. But this time, when Carla boarded the school bus, she obviously noticed the difference. Many boys didn't dare to look up at her, their eyes dodged, and their faces also had terrified expressions. Especially when Carla deliberately stood next to someone, the other person was very unnatural, and stood up quickly after a few hesitations. "Do you like this position? Then I will leave it to you." He ran away. But this kind of seat is for 2 people side by side, and the boy inside is about to cry. Carla was also polite, sat down directly, and turned her head to look around. In fact, not only the boys, but also the female students secretly looked at her with complicated eyes. Carla glanced sideways at the blocked boy sitting inside, and smiled. "What's going on in the school again? Let's hear it." She immediately guessed that someone must be spreading rumors about her again, or this time it wasn't a rumor. The boy said it almost in a crying voice. "Some people say that you actually killed that person, and after you dug out the eyeballs with something, you burned his brain to ashes with fire." The atmosphere in the school bus suddenly became extremely solemn, and some girls even covered their mouths and made retching sounds, as if the sense of substitution was too strong, and they were disgusted and frightened by the pictures they imagined. "I really have a hand in scaring myself." Carla rolled her eyes speechlessly. "By the way, what kind of image do I have in your hearts? Am I so ruthless? She is so beautiful, so let's think of something better. Beauty is really beautiful, there is nothing wrong with that." But the student whispered, "But on the first day of school, didn't you beat all the gangsters in a small club in the school to the bone?" When Carla froze, it was because they were looking for trouble for her, right? As the drunk man said before, Carla actually has another side, and she is cruel and cruel on the other side, so she is called a tyrant. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 22. In the blink of an eye, 3 years have passed since that incident. Now Carla is finally 18 years old. If there is no accident, she will graduate from high school this year. In the past few years, Carla has gradually started to keep a low profile, probably also aware that her reputation is being ruined by those jerks. It's just that Carla is destined to not be able to keep a low profile. After all, Carla is so beautiful. Every time after a freshman enters school, there will be either good boys or bad boys who will pursue her at first. If it was an ordinary good boy, she would politely refuse. If she encounters that kind of gangster, Carla will not do it directly now, but will use her stronger mental strength to make the opponent wrestle dozens of times a day. Her actions also reassured the adoptive parents, and finally there were no more troubles. At the same time, Clark was already 8 years old. This kid was now in elementary school, and he was gradually beginning to master his own strength. But because Clark has been relatively withdrawn in the past few years, he still can't make friends, which is a pity. Fortunately, he was accompanied by his sister. Carla has been training Clark for the past few years, and even taught him the ability of flight, but Clark's speed is not as fast as Carla's, and his strength is not as strong as Carla's. Also Carla's hotter. There is still a lot of gap between the two siblings, after all they are 10 years apart. Also a Kryptonian, Carla has an advantage in age, and as a sister, she has stronger strength. It was obviously going to take a lot of work for Clark to catch up to her. At noon that day, Carla was sitting alone on the grass in the school, leaning against a tree behind her, reading with relish a book in her hand. In fact, it is a college guide, and she is still hesitation whether she wants to go to college or not. If you go to university, you need a lot of tuition fees every year, but it is easier to find a job with a university diploma. If Carla wants to stay in the small town and develop, she doesn't care about whether to go to college or not. Graduating high school is enough for many jobs. And because the small town is within the scope of the metropolis, it will be much cheaper to go to university in this state. And with her super learning ability, she can apply for some scholarships, grants, etc. every year. Maybe a few $1,000s a year is enough? If she does some work or something, it should be fine. Carla, at this time, a boy suddenly appeared in front of Carla, looking at her expectantly. "You are Carla, right? Your name is Carla, right? Well, I think you'd better not think about anything," the boy was interrupted by a crisp voice. Carla raised her head, and saw two youthful and beautiful figures walking towards her. The dark-skinned one was Danny, who was wearing a casual shirt, casually matched with a pair of jeans and a pair of sneakers. The one who opened the mouth was obviously another girl, with fair skin, big wavy blonde hair, a blue suit and a pair of exquisite high heels. She looked very beautiful and cute. Jennifer glanced at the boy who was at a loss, snorted softly and said, "It's already the last semester, and you just now think of confessing to Carla? What do you think? You should go after your contemporaries. Sisters." The boy blushed from being squeezed, turned, and walked away. Danny shook her head amusedly. "It doesn't need to be that much," and Carla didn't say anything, did she? What if that's the type she likes? Forget it, Carla doesn't like people in such a small place. Jennifer clasped her right elbow with her left hand, and made a gesture of spreading her right hand. Carla sighed helplessly. She didn't say anything, and said, "Jennifer, don't forget that I am also from this small place, and my family is still outside the city, so there is nothing wrong with it." What she didn't say is that it's not that she doesn't look down on boys in such a small place, but in fact she looks down on almost anyone. After all, she traveled from the real world. How could she want to marry a character in a work? Carla's dress is somewhat similar to Donnie's. She wears a white shirt with sleeves rolled up on both sides. Her long hair is simply tied into a single ponytail with a headband. Because she hasn't cut her hair in the past few years, her long hair has exceeded her waist up. And unlike Jennifer, Carla's hair color is natural blonde, long and straight, and has never been permed. Jennifer dyed her hair the day after tomorrow because she likes blonde hair, and because her hair quality has been more or less affected, she deliberately permed it into big waves, but she is still very beautiful. Carla also wears jeans and sneakers and doesn't like to dress up like Jennifer. You guys, should you pay more attention to fashion and grooming? Jennifer taught the two best friends a lesson. Carla and Danny glanced at each other, both feeling speechless towards her. They haven't graduated yet, they are still students, right? Carla, have you already started planning to go to college? Danny leaned closer to Carla, noticed that she was reading the college guide, and guessed that Carla might go to college. Jennifer's eyes lit up. Which university are you going to go to? Carla is good at pointing out the introduction in the guidebook. One of the universities is the Metropolitan University. She may go there, if she really wants to take the exam. Because it's cheap. Jennifer and Danny looked at each other, both feeling strange. Your family can't afford it, right? Although Jonathan's family is a farmer, it is a large-scale farmer, and their annual income is not low. Clark is still young, and by the time he needs to go to college, Carla will have graduated. So totally affordable. Carla shook her head, and it wasn't all about money, because I want to stay in the metropolis after graduation and be closer to home. This is the main reason. Now that I have decided to develop in a metropolis, it will be better to study in a local university, and it will be much easier to find a job. I knew you would say that. Jennifer and Danny looked at each other, and then Danny showed Carla two wish forms. It turned out that they also applied to overcome the list of admission to the Metropolitan University. If you want to go to university, you need to apply, otherwise you will go to work directly after graduating from high school. In other words, instead of filling out a voluntary form and then passing the college entrance examination scores to confirm whether you are finally admitted, you need to fill out an application form and then take a special college entrance examination to determine whether you have passed the assessment. Some schools even have to participate in interviews, which feels a bit like applying for a job. Now Carla is worrying about her college. She has grown up. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 23. Afterwards, Carla made up her mind that if she had the chance, she would still go to college. The adoptive parents at home are definitely supportive and have prepared the tuition fees. Carla does not need to work to earn money. However, Carla said that this can also play a role in exercising themselves, so they gave up the idea of persuading Carla to concentrate on studying. Then Carla noticed that after hearing the news that she was going to go to college, Clark became more depressed. Carla felt amused, and came to Clark's room after dinner at night. The little guy was sitting on his bed with his head down, not knowing what he was thinking. "What's the matter, Clark?" Carla came to him and sat down beside him, put her arms around Clark's shoulders, and asked, "Because my sister is leaving home, do you feel lonely?" Knowing that she still asks, she is really an unscrupulous sister. This is the case with older sisters. If they are of the same age, they will bully younger brothers. Even though there is a 10-year gap between the two siblings, Carla still likes to tease Clark. He is so cute now, and when he grows up, he won't be able to tease him like this. Clark nodded honestly. He has never had many friends in school, only this sister can talk. It's not that there is any barrier between him and his adoptive parents. In fact, Clark still doesn't know that Jonathan and Martha are just his adoptive parents, and he always thought they were his biological parents. But his parents are just ordinary people, and his super abilities can only be discussed with his sister. Suddenly she might have to leave this home to study and live in another city, which made it difficult for Clark to accept for a while. Carla smiled and patted Clark on the shoulder. "Come on, let's go to the secret base." The so-called secret base refers to a small uninhabited island in the Pacific Ocean, which they discovered a few years ago. The area of the island is not too large, but it is not small enough for the two siblings to toss and explore. And they will also go to the sea, go to the bottom of the sea to find some delicious seafood, and take them to the island to cook and eat. That is the secret base they often go to play, because it is an uninhabited island, they can release their own power as much as they want. The premise is not to destroy the island. At that moment, Carla left home with Clark, and quickly flew towards the Pacific Ocean, during which they passed the sky above the metropolis. Carla pointed to Clark and introduced, "This is the city I'm going to come to next, it's actually very close, so I can go home every week, at least every month. Can't you come back every night?" Clark asked expectantly. Carla couldn't laugh or cry. "Let's not say that it's troublesome, they have lived together for several years, it's okay to be separated a little bit." It seems that little Clark is very attached to her. It's also because this sister is usually very reliable, unless she deliberately teases Clark, she is more dangerous than anyone else. The height of the siblings even exceeds the clouds, and their speed can easily exceed the speed of sound. With the current level of technology, it is difficult to find them. So the two of them also boldly soared freely in the sky and night sky, and soon came to a small island located in a certain sea area of the mortuary. As a tropical island, there are many tropical fruits on it. Carla also picked 2 coconuts from the coconut tree. She held the coconut in her left hand and waved her right hand like a knife. Shua! A phantom flashed quickly, but the coconut remained motionless. With a slight flip of Carla's right hand, it turned out that she had peeled off the shell of the coconut, but because of the speed and sharpness, even the coconut didn't notice that it was split. This is a very high achievement, even with the sharpest knife, it is difficult to achieve this level. Carla handed one of them to Clark, and took a sip of one herself. "It's so sweet." Carla squinted her eyes with a smile. "It's really good to use this place as a secret base, there are many free fruits to eat, and this sweet coconut juice to drink." Clark also took a sip, then looked at Carla beside him, knowing that she must have something to say when she brought him here. Carla turned her head, smiled at Clark, and said, "Clark, in fact, I left because I hope you can grow and exercise. Although I also want to stay by your side for the rest of my life, it is obviously impossible and unrealistic." "Yes. You will eventually grow into a reliable man who can stand on his own, Clark, I never doubted that. He is the future Superman, if he is not reliable, then there is no reliable person, right? Batman? While Batman is certainly reliable, what if the enemy is Steppenwolf? Doesn't it still depend on the power of Superman? Wonder Woman is also very powerful, and it is said that she can wrestle with Superman. But what if the enemy is Doomsday? The power of Wonder Woman can't help Doomsday, at least she can't destroy Doomsday. Even in that phantom space, there are still many enemies waiting for Clark to face when he grows up. In Carla's memory, he already knew that General Zod was sealed in the phantom space, and he might escape at any time. At that time, Clark would definitely be the first target, and he, too, would become the second target. The reason is that Jor-El, Carla's uncle and Clark's biological father, took away the Kryptonian life code, and that was Zod's only means to revive Kryptonian and Kryptonians. Once Zod is allowed to create the same cultivation tank as Krypton, and then get Krypton's code of life, the genes of all Kryptonians will be activated, and then they can be reborn on Earth. However, the Earth is not Krypton after all. The Earth is the Earth of the Earthlings, not the Kryptonian of the Kryptonians. If Zod wants to occupy the planet that already has a master, Carla will not sit idly by. Carla looked at Clark seriously. Clark, although you are still young, I hope you can understand that since we have great power, we will inevitably take on heavier responsibilities one day in the future. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. So grow up quickly, Clark. At the same time, I also hope to go outside, see more things, and even learn more fighting methods. In fact, Carla has been training herself secretly all these years. For example, the one-handed knife just now is enough to show that she has great ideas. It's just that Carla hasn't studied any genres systematically, and is more of a nonsense based on what she sees on TV or movies, and researches by herself. In fact, it was all done by relying on strong physical fitness and strength. It turns out that apart from wanting to go to college, Carla has her own plans. She wants to take advantage of her time at university to try to find opportunities to learn combat skills more systematically. Maybe there is an opportunity to join some club. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 24. As Carla grew older and soaked in the golden sun's rays over the years, so did her strength. But Carla has never underestimated Clark's strength. He may not be able to reach his own level now, but Clark will never be too weak in the future. And Carla knows that there will be many enemies in the future, although it has been calm now, but that is because the Superman has not appeared yet. Once Superman appears in front of the public, events will start to happen one after another. Powerful enemies have always existed, but they haven't appeared yet, but that's only temporary. So Carla has never been in a hurry to act. Anyway, the town has always been peaceful, even if there is no Superman or female Superman secretly protecting, there is no problem at all. Carla worried that once she started to move, under her influence, those powerful enemies would emerge one after another. So now she is not in a hurry to act, but to accumulate enough strength before Clark grows up. Among them, you need to practice combat skills. Among the many enemies of the future, there is even someone from Krypton, a general and his soldiers. Carla and Clark can easily take down most enemies, but if the enemy is also Kryptonian, they may not have much advantage. Even Carla knows some things better than Clark. For example, they almost grew up on the Earth, and they didn't experience the experience of being attacked by kryptonite and red sun rays on Krypton all the year round. This may make them less able to bear than those of General Zod. Carla is not bad, she has lived in Krypton for at least 10 years. At that time, maybe she will become the main force, so she must strive to make herself more reliable before then. Clark, I don't want to completely abandon you, it's just a brief separation. Maybe when you grow up, you can also come to the city where your sister is. Carla also extended an invitation to Clark. It's impossible for Clark to become immortal, sorry for his adoptive parents, maybe no one will inherit their farm. Clark nodded vigorously, he will definitely follow in his sister's footsteps. Okay, Carla stretched her waist with open hands after calming Clark's emotions, unwilling to think about those heavy things, and suggested to Clark, would you like to go to the sea? I haven't been here for a while. I kind of want to eat king crab. King crabs generally live hundreds of meters deep in the sea, or even thousands of meters deep. But this is not a problem for the two siblings, they can not only withstand the huge pressure of the seabed, they can even hold their breath for several hours. Carla is the most exaggerated. Now she cannot breathe for a day and a night. Once she even ran to the edge of the atmosphere, almost wanting to break through the atmosphere and go to outer space. At that time, it was because an artificial satellite happened to come from nearby, and she was afraid that her image would be photographed, so she gave up the idea. Later, Carla was also afraid for a while. There are many deadly elements in outer space that the human body cannot bear, but it doesn't matter that she doesn't need to breathe. In fact, she doesn't know whether she can survive in outer space. But one day, Carla will continue this challenge, because she knows that Superman's power comes entirely from the golden sun's light, and the closer the distance, the better the effect. Maybe one day she might run to the surface of the sun to bask in the sun. This is something to be said for the time being. The siblings stayed on the island for more than an hour before returning home. They did go into the sea. With their supervision, they can clearly see the surrounding things even on the bottom of the sea, and they can use far-sightedness and perspective. Easily find the location of the seafood you want to eat. Carla is also a bit of a foodie, and she had to satisfy her hunger before returning home contentedly, leaving a lot of king crab and lobster shells on the beach of the island. Jonathan and Martha didn't sleep until they got back to relax. He also smelled the smell of the sea from the two siblings, and guessed where they went. But seeing that Clark's mood has stabilized, he didn't teach Carla a lesson, but told them to be more careful when they act in the future, so as not to be seen or expose their Superman power. Jonathan has always been worried that their power will cause panic among the people around him, and he is even more worried that they will affect the whole world in the future, and even their attitude towards the Earth, and what people on Earth think of them. It's no wonder that Jonathan is so cautious and worried. It's because the Kryptonians are too powerful. Carla now has the power to tear up the Earth. Not only can she easily destroy the Earth, but no one can stop it. Carla didn't argue, and she didn't feel bored, because she knew that Jonathan and Martha treated their siblings as their own, and they were just worried about them, not really blaming them. I still have a lot of materials to read tomorrow, I'm going to bed first, greeted Carla, and Carla was about to go upstairs. Martha chased after her and shouted, "Take off your clothes, and I'll wash them for you later." Carla is 18 years old, and it turns out that her adoptive mother is doing her laundry. Definitely Carla has helped the family a lot in other things too. Here. Carla turned her head and made a gesture of unbuttoning it. Go upstairs, Jonathan growled. Martha shook her head, this child. Carla ran upstairs with a smile on her face, changed her pajamas after a while, and threw the changed clothes and shoes down the stairs. The couple had nothing to do with her. Still, Clark was well behaved and sensible, and he went back to the room upstairs and changed into his pajamas, but he took the clothes downstairs by himself and sent them to the bathroom. There was actually a washing machine at home. Clark put the clothes in the washing machine and planned to wash the shoes himself. After all, their siblings once ran to the bottom of the sea, and they smelled of sea water all over their bodies, which was not very good. It was Martha who urged Clark to go to bed. Leave this to me, it will be done soon, go to bed Clark. Clark got up and went upstairs. In fact, Clark's character is a bit too cute and sensible. One reason is that he was relatively withdrawn in school since he was a child, and he had few friends. Another reason is that his strength is not as perfect as Carla can control it from the beginning, and it has only been slowly controlled in recent years. The main reason is because of Jonathan's influence. Jonathan has always cared about Clark's growth, hoping to guide him into a good person. Carla also approves of Jonathan's education method, so it has never hindered him. It is precisely because of Jonathan's careful care and correct guidance that Clark became the admired Superman. Including Carla herself has been influenced and educated by Jonathan a lot. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. Immediate recharge, activity period, January 21st to February 5th. 25. After appeasing little Clark's emotions, Carla began to fully prepare for the college entrance examination. She didn't think it was difficult for those materials, because Carla could read 10 lines at a glance and never forget them. However, how to deal with the interview needs to be well prepared. For this reason, Carla and the others had a simulation when they were in school. 2 people acted as examiners at a time, and interviewed another person based on the success information of some seniors and sisters in the school. Definitely they all tend to turn into farce in the end. For example, Jennifer will ask some Carla how to take care of her hair and skin. Carla expressed helplessness, she had never done it before. Could she say that sunlight is her best nutrition? It's okay to bask in the sun. But if Jennifer follows her example, she might get tanned. Danny also cares about what kind of type Carla likes, or whether she just likes the same S*X, likes other girls and so on. Carla was even more speechless. Are you sure the examiner will ask these questions? Okay, let's talk about your measurements. Jennifer pretended to sit there with her arms folded, looking at Carla's figure with unabashed envy. Carla raised her hands and surrendered. It's okay to stop playing. She does have a perfectly proportioned figure, and she is now over 1.8 meters tall, which is considered tall even among boys. But Carla is not tall and thin, only her waist is relatively thin, and her measurements are in the golden ratio, which made Jennifer say sour words a lot. For a while, Jennifer even wanted to move to Carla's house, eat and live with her, and work with her. Jennifer has always wondered whether it is exercise that makes Carla have a good figure. Definitely her parents will never agree. In this way, the three girls finally ushered in their college entrance examination in the seemingly tense but not at all nervous preparations. The exam went very well. They all did their review and homework well, so their final scores were also very good. If there were no accidents, they would all be able to pass the exam. But in the end, I still have to face the interview examiner. Generally speaking, the interview questions are divided into two types, one is about the school and the other is about the students themselves. For example, the examiner will ask, "Why did you choose our school?" Carla's answer is also very solid, "Because my hometown is nearby, and I plan to stay in the metropolis after graduation, this school is my first choice." The three examiners in the interview were all observing Carla's expression, and found that she was looking back at them frankly, so they couldn't help but nodded. Then they asked Carla about her understanding of the school. Carla has also done homework in this area, but instead of directly memorizing the information found on the internet, she organized it according to her own understanding. And in the process again, the examiners have been considering her words. If the examiners feel that the words are inappropriate and make them feel that Carla is still a little naive and not suitable for entering university life now, they will also give a poor score. Fortunately, Carla did not show timidity at all, but talked freely, relaxed and confident. Finally, the examiners took out Carla's paper and asked about the questions and content on the paper. Carla definitely also memorizes back and forth, without any mistakes. The interview examiners all showed satisfied expressions, but there is no way to announce the result yet, so Carla was asked to go home and wait for the news. Carla also breathed a sigh of relief in her heart, stood up and was about to go out. But I heard the examiner press a phone behind him to summon the next candidate. "Let the next candidate come in, I remember it's Bruce Wayne." Carla paused. "Bruce Wayne? There are a lot of people named Bruce, and there are people named Bruce Banner. But when it comes to the surname Wayne, the first thing that comes to mind is the Wayne Group, right? Just like Iron Man Tony and Stark Group in the Marvel world, DC's Batman Bruce and Wayne Group are definitely one of the richest companies. But the headquarters of the Wayne Group should be in Gotham City?" Carla left the room suspiciously, and she paused at the door until the sound of footsteps came from the other end. Carla looked in the direction of the voice as she stepped forward again, pretending to be walking outside, and then she saw a handsome young man with a hint of emptiness in his eyes and some viciousness walking here. "He is Bruce Wayne, right?" Carla felt a little strange, or many people don't quite remember who this name is, but Carla knew that if he was really that Bruce Wayne, then he would be Batman. After all, Carla cheated on Batman, so she naturally remembered his name. But looking at Bruce's slightly downcast appearance, it's not about his external appearance, but his temperament. He seems to be in a state of desperation, and he can't be connected with Batman no matter what. Carla deliberately had a face-to-face with Bruce, and Bruce was also looking at the beautiful girl in front of him, but he finally pushed open the door behind Carla, and it was his turn to go to the interview. Batman came to Metropolis suddenly. What's going on? Carla complained secretly in her heart. Could it be some unexpected situation? Batman is the hero of Metropolis, and it's time for Superman to go to Gotham? Don't, she didn't want to guard the place where the Arkham Asylum was established. After Carla finished the exam, she had to wait for Danny and Jennifer. Although the three of them submitted the application together, the order was messed up. After Carla was Bruce, then Danny, and Jennifer. "Hey, Carla, I just found a handsome guy," Jennifer looked excited and whispered before Carla came to sit down. Carla knew she must be talking about the Bruce just now, otherwise, if the handsome guy she spoke of was still here, she wouldn't have shouted out like that. Danny put her hand on her forehead, and complained to Carla, "You don't know, Carla, she almost posted her whole body just now. But that kid is really good looking, did you just pass by and meet?" Carla nodded. Indeed, she had seen it before, but the first impression Bruce gave her was actually not good, and she even began to doubt, is this Bruce Wayne really that Batman? Could it be something wrong? "Hey, Carla, don't you also like that kid?" Seeing Carla's thoughtful look, Jennifer couldn't help making such a guess. Carla rolled her eyes. "You think too much, don't you know my character?" "Well, you should prepare for the next interview first. If you are the only one who fails the exam, Donnie and I will pass." "Oh, you fell." Jennifer gave it up, but Bruce was clearly impressed, and it took Jennifer another few minutes to get back on track. Carla and Danny looked at each other and shook their heads speechlessly. Happy reading every day during Spring Festival in the Year of the Rabbit. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP coupons. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.